Hello everyone, welcome to What If Goku Was an Avatar and Becomes Firebender Part 3. Before we start, please go support Okansino for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Notes before the chapter, because the next part will cover the DBZ saga, power levels are a thing. But I will not give you information about their numbers. And even in the story, you may see some numbers, but everything will be based on the next comparison with the Dragon Ball characters. Avatar Feared wins Dragon Ball. Goku stronger than his DB version. Not only does he keep training with sparring partners, but also for the Zenkai boost from all the time Azula wiped the floor with him. He even received the lighting attack from Azula, the same attack that almost killed Aang. Azula Goku, or at least in his version after defeating Piccolo in the martial arts tournament. She also kept training. Off Piccolo without the Kai blasts. She also kept training. Aang Tien Shinhan. This made me think about a crossover, but the other way around. Aang being discovered by Tien Shinhan in Chaos, and possible with Master Shen. But I have to pass, too many crossovers at the same time. Aang Avatar State Goku imagined that Tien Shinhan was a Saiyan and that he turned into the giant ape, that is Aang. Meaning that he will be stronger than anyone else. Zuko Krillin with swords, firebending as Kai blasts. Katara Krillin. Nothing to add here. Mai, Ty Lee, and Suki Yamcha, they are not pathetic. In fact, Yamcha is the third strongest human in DB, but then Videl was born, but that was DBZ. Sokka Yajirobe good with a sword, but not quite strong like the others. Although in my opinion, his character is more like Yamcha. Both have their chance to stay with their love interest, but for mysterious reasons, they do not end with their love interest. A new threat. It has passed almost 9 years since Goku and Azula found their father. Many things had changed. Toph moved her metal bending school and her family to the village turned to city, Tuzin. Azula wanted to call the city Ozai City, but it was too small and not as strong as she would want. This way Goku and Toph could train more frequently, and it also gives a way to improve, as some students are lava benders, and they could learn something from the firebenders of the place. Although Aang would want to offer them to annex the city to the United Republic, the proposition was denied by Katara and Zuko right away. Sokka and his part was open to hearing why, and how would that benefit the new country, but with the denial of the other two, the idea was discarded. Sokka, the non-bender guy in the Avatar gang, was responsible for the new country called the United Republic. The country was founded by Aang and Zuko. The county consists of all of the previous colonies of the Fire Nation. Even when Sokka wanted to have a calm peaceful life with a wife and maybe with kids that never come to reality, the task took him a lot of his time and effort. Due to his new job, he had a small time for himself, and that time did not synchronize with his girlfriend Suki, who was a bodyguard for Zuko, the Fire Lord. The time she spent with the Fire Lord was another problem, as Sokka started to grow jealous of Zuko as he spent more time with Suki than him, which ended up the reason for their breakup. Zuko was crowned the new Fire Lord. He was able to get married to Mai and had a baby girl that they called Izumi. He lived in the palace alongside his mother and his stepfather and stepsister. Although his family life with them was exceptional, with a big contrast with Sokka, his life as a Fire Lord was a nightmare. Many citizens did not like him and many revolts started every now and then. The problem started when he decided to give the colonies away and work with the Avatar to give them back to the Earth Kingdom. Then when he started to help him to create a new country, things got worse. Many citizens felt betrayed by him. They felt that he did not respect the fallen soldiers, those who fought in the war for the acquisition of territories and for the Fire Nation. Because of that, many families in the Fire Nation were divided. Many companies decided to leave the Fire Nation as many of their factories were based in the colonies. They were able to extract the raw material from there, so money and jobs were lost when they did that. Food, metal, and many other resources were coming from the colonies and helped the Fire Nation to stay afloat, but with the division, many people started to pass hunger. Zuko also needed to work with the nation's debt, as many of the funds were sent to the military. No wonder there were revolts and conspiracies to overthrow him. Zuko started to feel a little paranoid, as many of the revolts asked for Azula or for Goku to be on the throne. His only place of comfort was his family. Although one thing was hidden from him, and it was the wish of her mother to see Azula and Goku, as she wants to ask for forgiveness. Aang, on his side, was having a better life. He traveled to different parts of the world with his wife, Katara. And by his good surprise, every time he visited an air temple, more people wanted to become acolytes and learn the air nomads' culture. His greatest joy happened when Katara gave born to a baby boy. They called him Bumi, in honor of his late friend from the Earth Kingdom. Aang still goes and helps Sokka in his duty with the United Republic. At some point, Aang and Sokka went to ask Toph if she wanted to help in the United Republic with the security. This was done behind Zuko and Katara's back, as they knew that Toph was living with Azula and Goku. Toph accepted. She said that she will do it in her own way, and the only police she will have under her will be her disciplines from the academy. Goku and Azula were still living together, and nothing much had changed between them. Azula is still busy around him. They now live in a bigger house, and all the aides that used to work in the palace of the Fire Nation are now working there. The town of Tuzin was filled with Fire Nation citizens and earthbenders that decided to stay, most of them were people who wanted to enter Toph's academy. Many old soldiers and politics are now living there. One of them is Mai's father, who left his home with his younger son. He wanted to bring his whole family, but they did not want to do that, especially when Mai was, at that moment, Zuko's girlfriend, but to him, a person who betrayed his family was not cut to be a Fire Lord. Unfortunately, his own family betrayed him. The life in the city was good, as their location was close enough to the forest, and they were able to locate underground water. The field was fertile, and they could farm with no problem. Some of the earthbenders arrived, with their whole families, and the architecture of the place was able to be improved by them. As the city was originally small, they needed to expand, and they did in the direction to the limits of the forest, and when they got close enough, they started to grow tall. Even when there were close towns to them two can make any kind of commerce exchange, they decided to not do it at first and only work and farm to self-sustain, but later on, after Toph accepted to work in the United Republic, the commerce was also open in a certain degree, as Azula did not want the city to lose their autonomy. And even when all this has happened, and with all the revolts happening in the Fire Nation, and the troubles that the Southern Water Tribe had with the Northern Water Tribe, the world was at peace. No major war occurred, and most problems were resolved in questions of weeks or months. Although for Zuko, the problems raised as fast as one was resolved, no major attacks happened. Due to these problems, the small things that make him happy are widely celebrated, and today was one of them as his daughter was going to celebrate her first birthday. The reason why Zuko called his friends, who were happy to go. It was the first time that all the group was together in many years, and Zuko was happy that they wanted to share this moment. The first to arrive was Aang and Katara. To Zuko's surprise, they came with Bumi, who was able to walk but was still very supervised by Katara, as he does have a lot of energy. The second to arrive was Sokka, who arrived by ship. He was somehow annoyed that Aang did not offer him a lift. When he asked if he could carry the baby Azumi, the one that was with the baby was Suki, which made the scene a little awkward for them. When this was happening, from the skies Toph arrived. She was using similar rope she wore when they used to travel together, the only difference is that she is now using some heavy clothes underneath, just like Goku advised her. The scene of Toph coming from the skies is still a feature that they are still trying to get used to. Toph's landing in front of them helped to ease the tension between Sokka and Suki. It also amazed Ki, the half-sister of Zuko that was present at the moment. Zuko invited them to the garden where some beautiful flowers were blooming, as they were cared for by Ursa and Mai. While most of the people were around the small kids, Toph decided to wander a little, because in the end, no matter how close she was to the kids, she won't be able to see their faces. The only person that spotted Toph going to another place was Ursa. She followed her, as she wanted to ask her about Azula and Goku. Then Toph stopped next to a pond. So, this is the famous turtle duck pond, huh? Not impressive. Did they tell you about this pond, Zuko? Nah, he doesn't talk too much about his house. I was referring to Azula and Goku. To be honest, I don't know if I should answer that. I understand. Don't take me wrong. I may have overreacted when we first met. You are the dear mother of one of my friends, but for the other two, or at least one, the word dear won't apply. Ursa looked down. She expected as much, but it still hurt her. I would love to ask for their forgiveness. That is a good thing to do. I wanted to ask you if you can. Arrange a meeting. Sorry, but there. I would also want to ask for Goku. Hailey appeared. She was not wearing the makeup of the Kyoshi as she was on her day off. I do miss him. Has he talked about me? They have talked about you, but you really don't want to hear it. Did he? What did he say about me? The only time I heard about you was when they told me that you betrayed Azula. Oh, I see. Look. I am not the relationship counsel of no one. If you do really want to see them, you can do it. At this point it's not a secret that they rule the Tuzin city. Is something the matter? No, it's okay. We were just talking. After Mai intervened, Toph left the pond and went to talk with her friends. After all this time, the only person that Toph normally sees is Sokka, which happens every month and normally is because of work. Aang stopped training his bendings, like the rest of the group, except for Zuko who kept training out of habit, and Toph who stills trained with Goku every week and with Azula from time to time. Toph has found that time is very precious for her. Even when Aang and the others will always be her friends, Goku and Azula had been with her all these 9 years. And this difference started to show up when she sat and started to hear the conversations. Aang and Sokka were talking about politics, and Katara and Zuko were talking about their kids. She felt out of place, but then the kid of Aang arrived and grabbed her clothes. Katara just giggled a little, and then Suki, who has Azumi in her arms, offered her to hold the baby. At the same time, on an uninhabited island at the north of the Fire Nation, a sphere fell from the skies, making a big crater. From the sphere, a man came out. His black hair was long and fell until his waist. He was wearing black armor with brown shoulders. He had a small machine in his left eye with a green crystal in front. He looked very upset for some reason and then he touched the machine in his left ear. A small sound came from it and some symbols were displayed in the crystal. "That damn Kakaroto," said the man, then the machine pointed to one direction and then the man said. "There is a person with enough power over all of these people, is not that far from here. Hopefully, that would be Kakaroto." Then the man fly away to the direction that the machine was telling him. While flying, the man passed multiple towns and small cities of the Fire Nation. The man just said. "All the people are still living peacefully. This planet is underdeveloped. And they are too weak. Curse you, Kakaroto." In the Fire Nation palace, in the garden. The people are still talking. Toph was talking about the fun stories of Zuko, while Sokka was confirming everything while mimicking the situation. Then Sokka started to talk about the play they saw on Ember Island, and for a moment the place was awkward when Sokka mentioned that the play put Zuko and Katara together. Mai just gave a fatal glare to Zuko, who was sighted close to Katara. Zuko started to mumble a little, and then they just laughed. Suddenly Toph stood up as she felt a presence that was coming closer very fast. She screamed, "Go to a secure place now." All of them got surprised by Toph, but Zuko trusted her, so he asked his aides to take the kids inside. He also asked Ursa and Mai to go inside. Ursa was on her way to obey, but Mai stayed behind. The rest were still unsure what was happening. Suddenly from the skies, a man flew down and stood in front of them. Oh. A power of 322, followed by a 250. "So, there are also people like you. Unfortunately, you are not opponents for me." The man looked first at Toph, then he looked at Aang. Toph was nervous as she could feel the power coming from him. Ty Lee got scared as she could feel his aura to be full of death. Sokka said to Toph, "Is he one of your students?" But Toph did not answer. Then the machine that was in the man's eyes started to make a little noise. Then Zuko stood in front and at his side was Aang. Toph was too distracted that she did not realize when they walked in front. "You are trespassing the property of the Fire Lord. We want to ask you to leave." The man just smirked at the taunt of Zuko. Then Sokka just stood in front of both and said, "I know that you may be following your mentor, but she is now on her day off. So, it's better for you to take your leave. And also, you can use a shower because you smell like." Sokka was saying those things while walking to the man, but then from his waist, a monkey-like tail that was around his waist moved to hit Sokka and send him to fly. "Why did you do that?" Aang screamed and blew a strong stream of air and Zuko sent a fireball. Due to the combination of both attacks, a big explosion happened when hitting the man. Toph tried to stop them but couldn't. But when the cloud of air produced by the explosion went away, the man was still standing like nothing had happened and just said, "What a boring technique." Zuko and Aang were preparing to attack again, but Toph trapped them by their feet with earthbending and sent them back. Then she stood in front of the strange man. Suddenly the machine started to make some noise again, now it was pointing in another direction. The man said to himself, "There is somebody else with greater power," then he flew up. "The signal of power is from the strongest on this planet. That should be Kakaroto," he concluded. After that, he flew in the direction where the machine was telling him. After they saw the strange man leaving, Katara went directly to Sokka and started to heal him. Everybody was angered about it and they turned to see Toph, thinking that she may know him for the simple reason that he could fly, but Toph was still in shock and tried to process everything. Ty Lee was still in fear, she thought that even with Azula, she had never experienced that amount of fear from a person. He is flying in Goku's direction, Toph thought, realizing that her friends are in danger. She was going to start to fly but was stopped by Zuko. He was angered by what happened and wanted some answers. "Explain this. Let me go. The only people that know how to fly are you, Goku, and Azula. He is not with us if that is what you are implying." "I am not implying anything. I only want to know what exactly happened. There is no time for it. That man is going in the direction of Azula and Goku." Toph swung her arm and Zuko let her arm go. "Why should we care? This attack was made by them, as far as I can see. I care because they are my friends." "We are your friends. Not my only friends. Calm down, everyone." Aang intervened before they started to fight. Toph said, "I am going to help them," and started to fly in the same direction where the strange man went. Aang tried to ask her to wait, but she already left, so he ran where Appa was and started to go in the same direction. He could hear Katara screaming at him with an angry voice, asking him to stay there, but Aang kept going after Toph. "What should we do?" "We can try to follow them with a war balloon. It's not as fast as any of them, but it can help. Suki, can you take the kids inside?" "Of course." After that, everybody followed Zuko. Suki took Bumi and Izumi inside. She asked Ki to follow her, but Ki hid and went to the war balloon. Aang could see Toph in front of him. So, he went next to her. Aang screamed at her, "Get over Appa. You will tire yourself before arriving. Toph groaned a little but complied. More notes about the current states of the Avatar team. I put the Zuko and Maiar together because they broke up in the comics due to Zuko being secretly talking with his dad about the restoration movement, but because Ozai was never captured, this could never happen, meaning that Zuko didn't hide anything from Mai. I add a reason why Sokka and Suki broke up because, in the series, it was never specified what happened to them. I think that the relationship never flourished for the same reason as what happened in this fanfic crossover. The United Republic was still founded, but it was more because of what Toph said to them, which was the same thing that Goku told her while training. And lastly, at that moment, Goku, Azula and Katara are 24 years old. The strongest team. Outside the town of Tuzin, Goku was dodging the punches of a 13-year-old kid. The kid was very fast but not like Goku. With only one step, Goku dodged a punch, with another step dodged the other punch, he ducked a little to dodge a kick. This scene seems to repeat over and over again, making the kid tired very quickly. On the other side of the place, Azula was sighted with her legs crossed, drinking tea and eating some desserts. Then Azula rang a little bell. The kid stopped altogether and let himself fall to the ground. Goku just went and smiled at him. It's not fair. I can move with this much weight. It's only 44 pounds 20 kilos. I am only 13. We used to train with 5 times that weight. When will I learn how to firebend like you? Hum on tom tom. Goku lends his hand to the kid to help him to get up. The kid just smiled and went in the direction where some buildings could be seen. Azula and Goku were still in the same place saying goodbye to the kid as it seems that it was their turn to practice together. Suddenly they changed their faces to a more serious one. In the sky, a strange person was floating in the air in front of them. They could feel his energy. It was an energy that they had never felt before, it was full of death. Then when he went and stood in front of them, they could not help but put their guard up. A sound came from a machine that the strange man had in his ear. Then he said, "Finally, I found you. You have grown up, but looking at you, I can tell it is you, Kakaroto." "Kakaroto? You look just like our father. But tell me, why is this planet still have humans? Your mission was to exterminate all of them. Who are you supposed to be? Kakaroto, how could you have forgotten about your mission? Stop calling me that way. My name is Goku." "What did you say? Have you really forgotten everything? Did you hit your head as a baby? Answer me." "I did. I don't remember, but that's something that my father told me. So that was the reason. And who are you? What do you want from me? You forgot everything. Stupid. Very well, let me help you remember. You are not from this planet. You were born on planet Vegeta. You belong to the race of the strongest warriors from all the universe, the Saiyans." "What? And I am your older brother, Raditz." "His brother? Tsch. If that is true, why would you send a baby here?" "The answer is simple. Kakaroto, you were sent here to exterminate the humans of this planet." "What? We, the Saiyans, travel all the universe and take over the planets that are habitable by killing their host. Then we sell the planet to those who search for a place to live. Depending on the power level of the planet, we send adults or kids. This planet is too weak, that's why you were sent here, Kakaroto. Unfortunately, our planet was destroyed by a meteorite. Right now, we are only 4, including you. And they are stronger than me." "What? Weak? You should have killed its population by now. But the good thing is that you can still do it. You can use the moon to do it." "What does the moon has to do with this? Stupid. Wait. Where is your tail? It was cut when I was a child." "What? You dare to do that? That is why you live with those weaklings." "Shut up. You can say that I am a Saiyan or that you are my older brother. But I can't care less. My name is Goku, I am the prince of the Fire Nation. Now, get out of here. I did come here to ask you to join us. But I've changed my mind. Goku's only family right now is me. And if you want, I can arrange for that to happen right now." Azula said that while she removed her armor and her boots, which were heavy. When it touched the floor, the sound of the metal clashing with the earth was very loud. Goku also removed his t-shirt, wristbands, and boots. Raditz's machine started to make a sound again. "Kakaroto is 516, said Raditz to himself. "Hahaha. Do you think that with that increase of your power level can take me? Don't make me laugh. Power is not everything. I have decided that we no longer need you. You will be only a hindrance. I will end you right now." After that, with amazing speed, Raditz passed between Goku and Azula. He punched them with his elbow in their backs. Both, Azula and Goku, were able to equilibrate themselves and put some distance between them and Raditz. Still, they were amazed by his speed. With a simple nod, Azula and Goku ran against Raditz and started to attack him. Goku attacked with punches and kicks, Azula used her sharp nails and kicks. But like the training Goku had with Tom Tom, Raditz was able to dodge every attack. Raditz kicked Goku and then Azula and used that impulse to jump high. Azula and Goku stood up immediately and also jumped, but Raditz launched 2 beams from his hands which were directed to Goku and to Azula. Both were avoided, but they still were kicked by Raditz and landed heavily on the ground. Raditz was laughing while standing in front of them. Goku and Azula stood back up. The ground where they were was destroyed by the beams. Azula was incredulous that the man could use the same firebending technique as his brother. Meanwhile, in the war balloon, Zuko and the others were in silence. Not knowing what to expect. Then Katara spoke. If this ends up being another attempt of Azula to take over Fire Nation, I will not be surprised. Me neither. But, we have never found any evidence that she was behind all those attempts. Liz, look, I know that she is your daughter, but you have to accept reality. Stop, both of you. We will find out once we arrived at Tuzin. The one that stopped Mai and Katara from continuing talking was Zuko. He had the hope that his siblings had changed for the better. He does believe that her mother was right. Although, he still believes that back in the war, he made the right decision. Back at the outside of Tuzin. Azula and Goku were panting heavily. They were getting tired and they still haven't done any real damage to Raditz. On the other hand, Raditz was with a smile in front of them. Azula jumped and fire bent around Raditz, making a curtain of dust, then Goku attacked Raditz and sent him to fly. In the middle of the air, Raditz stopped himself. After that, he charged against Azula, but Goku put himself in front of him and received the hit. Raditz went close to end it all, but suddenly a wall of earth was erected and started to move towards Raditz. He just punched the wall, and Goku and Azula were not there anymore. A noise sounded from the machine in Raditz's ear. He could find that they were next to a bald guy and a girl in green robes. Are you okay? We are. DSCH. Azula took away the hand of the avatar and started to stand up, just like Goku. You should put your bison in a safer place. It will hide in the forest nearby. Good. What can you tell me about that man? We were not able to make a scratch on him. Say, as an avatar, do you have a secret power that can help us? Sorry, but no. Are you telling me that that guy could beat the two of you? I don't know if I should be happy to have a challenge like that or should I curse my luck for crossing that guy's path. I may be able to take him down but I will need your help. You asking for help? Count me in. Anything so you can own me one. Distract him for a while. I have a technique that is powerful enough. It won't kill him, will it? If we are lucky. It will. But right now is him or all the world. Now, go. After that, Goku, Toph, and Aang went against Raditz. Meanwhile, Azula started to charge her lighting technique. Aang started to launch a series of fireballs, but Raditz stopped them with his hand. Then Toph started to move the floor around Raditz, which made him lose balance, and at that moment, Aang launched a series of ice spikes to Raditz, which were destroyed with his arm. Right after that, Aang sent a strong gust of air, which sent him to fly backward, and where he was going to land, Toph created spikes made of earth. Raditz spun himself and destroyed the spikes with a kick. The machine from his ear started to sound. Goku started to concentrate a lot of energy. The machine marked some numbers. Impossible. His power is increasing. 1025, 1026, they can concentrate all their energy in one attack. Later, the machine started to make the noise again. Her combat power is 1120. I can't believe it. And is still rising. Then Goku shouted a big hi and launched a powerful beam. Raditz tried to escape, but Toph used her earthbending to stop him and attached the floor beneath him to his feet. Raditz groaned a little, and then he raised his hand to stop Goku's attack. The explosion was so powerful, and still, with that, Raditz was without a scratch. Raditz laughed a little and said, "Now, let me be the one to show you what a technique should be." Raditz started waving his arms, did it 3 times, and each time a blast was sent out. One was sent to Goku, another to Toph, and another to Aang. Aang and Toph created a wall of earth and put their arms to protect themselves, but they still received damage from the attack and were in the ground. But Goku was in the air, tired, and received the attack directly and fell heavily to the ground. Raditz ran to the place where Goku was to attack him again, but the machine warned Raditz of increasing power. When he looked in the direction the machine was warning him, he realized that the power of Azula was still going up. Power of 1330. All her energy is concentrated in her fingers. Damn, how can they control their energy at will? Hiya, Azula shouted as she wanted to use a big part of her energy with that attack. She has been training with Goku for these 9 years and decided to control her lighting attack with the same technique she uses to fly, and the result was this technique. Azula did not care about the ideals of the avatar, she was aiming to the heart of her opponent, she wanted to kill him. The big explosion happened, even louder than last time. The attack seems to have crossed the desert which was on the horizon and stopped in a big dune. Azula was panting heavily, she used a big part of her energy to make that attack. Unfortunately, Raditz was fast enough to move when the attack was launched and only his left shoulder was damaged. You were too close. If that attack had landed on my body, I would be dead. You have hurt my shoulder. I won't forgive you for that. Azula just spat and put her gore up. She knew that she won't be able to defeat him. Suddenly, all of Raditz's body was covered with rock. Raditz destroyed the small prison and saw that the girl in green robes was standing. He smirked, and when he was going to sprint at her, Aang tried to stop him and grabbed him by the tail. Suddenly Raditz was on the floor in agony. Aang did not know what happened, and then Azula screamed at him, "Do not let the tail go. It seems that he is getting weaker." Aang just nodded at her and squeezed the tail stronger. At the same moment Azula started to charge her attack again. "I do not have much energy left. This one should land. If not, we are doomed," Azula thought while she was charging her attack. "Please let me go, I was wrong. I will leave this planet without killing anyone." "Don't listen to him. He is trying to escape. Please, I know that I plan to kill the humans here. But I always keep my promises. Are you telling me the truth?" "I am, I promise." "Don't do it, he is." Toph was trying to be the voice of the reason there. She tried to advise Aang that Raditz was lying, but Aang stopped squeezing Raditz's tail. At the moment that Aang stopped squeezing his tail, Raditz kicked Aang and sent him to fly. Raditz started to run where Aang landed. Goku appeared in front, but Raditz headbutted Goku. Goku could resist somehow, but then Raditz blasted a beam in his chest. The fighters of this planet are too bland. A real warrior won't hesitate to kill, not even their blood. "Let me show you." Raditz started to charge an attack, but then he received a blast in the hand he was going to use for the attack. When Raditz turned to see who did that, he saw a young boy around 13 years old. He was panting heavily, and tears were running through his eyes. Then Azula screamed, "Get out of here, Tom Tom." Raditz smirked and started to walk through the boy. Then a bunch of big rocks were sent to him by Toph, but Raditz destroyed with no problem with a swing of his arms. Suddenly the machine started to sound again. When he looked at the source he saw that the bald guy was floating, and his eyes were with white light. Raditz got surprised by the image. A sphere of air was formed around Raditz. He was floating because of that sphere of air that was around him. Then the avatar said, "Azula, try your technique again. I don't know how much I can keep it there." Azula smirked and started to charge the attack again. Then Toph put rocks around Raditz's arms and legs. Meanwhile, Raditz tried to move his body, he was having problems breathing, and his arms and legs were too heavy suddenly. The machine of Raditz detected the power of Azula, it was 1480, and after that, he tried to move with more force. "I am sorry, Avatar. But at this point, I don't think I can let him live." Raditz shouted aloud, making his energy expand, and his energy made the Avatar lose concentration. That expansion of energy took a lot of his power, and he was set free from the air sphere, but as soon he was free, the attack from Azula was launched. The great explosion happened, the sound was tremendous, the power of the attack also emitted a bright light. After the light was gone, the people present could see that Raditz was on the floor with a hole in his chest. The fight was finally over. Azula fell to her knees by the exhaustion. The Avatar was panting too fast after getting out of his Avatar state. Toph went close to the Saiyan, as she could feel that he was still living. She could not believe it. A hole was in his chest, but he still had energy left, but it was small energy, and it was draining very fast. Then she heard the Saiyan speaking. "I can't believe that I was defeated by people of this race." "What's that?" "The porcupine man cannot accept defeat. Laugh all you want. But everything that happened here was transmitted to my other Saiyan partners. They are on another side of the universe. They know that you have killed me, and they will come to get vengeance." While Raditz was talking, he started to spit blood. Aang was able to get close to Toph. "Not only you four. But all the people of this planet will die. When will they arrive?" "In a year and only a year." Raditz coughed a little more blood, and then he passed away. Aang was not happy. He didn't want to kill him. He understands that he was a greater menace than Fire Lord Ozai, but if he could make a change for the better, why this person wouldn't. When Aang turned to see Azula, he saw that she was next to Goku. The fight was brutal, and Goku received most of the damage. Next to Azula was a young boy. Then from the skies, Aang could see the air balloon of the Fire Nation. On their way to Tuzin, they could see that many explosions happened near their destination. Ursa was praying for Azula and Goku's safety. Goku may not be her birth son, but she loves him as one. He was always with a big smile and cared for his two siblings. He may be a little too fascinated with fights, but his nature was always of a good person. The whole crew was afraid that the worst had happened. Then after the second explosion, Ki went out from her hideout and hugged her mom. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to help. I also am a firebender. And if they try to do something to my brother, I want to be there to help him." Ki's answer received smiles from Katara and Mai. Zuko was worried about the presence of her half-sister, and Sokka was paying attention to the curse of the ship as he was the one in charge of the controls. Then Sokka screamed, "I can see them." Sokka started the landing maneuvers. The other went to the windows to see. They could see that Aang and Toph were standing next to the strange man, which made everybody sigh in relief. Zuko and Ursa were watching that Azula was next to Goku, whose body was on the floor. Then Zuko opened the door and jumped. He was followed by Katara, Mai, and Ty Lee. Sokka just said, "Of course, let me behind with the ship, no problem." But his comment was answered by the stabbing looks of Ki and Ursa who stayed behind. Zuko, Mai, Katara, and Ty Lee landed and ran directly where Aang and Toph were. Katara went and hugged Aang, and then she was stunned when she saw the dead body of Raditz. She turned to see Aang. He had a dark face and was clenching his fist. Zuko just looked at the dead body and just turned to see where Goku was. Then Aang said to Katara, "Can you help me with Goku?" "A pleasure." Katara changed her face from worry to a serious one and put herself in a combat position. Mai also put a fighting stance. Then Toph stood in front of them and said, "Don't you dare." Aang said with a stern voice. "Katara." She turned to see Aang. "I am asking you to help him and cure him." "What?" "I will not do such a." Katara flinched this time. Aang was not happy. He could not save the man next to him, but the others tried to do the right thing. He could not let anyone else die. Unfortunately, Mai ran to where Azula was and behind her was Zuko. Azula got up and put herself in a battle stance and Tom Tom did the same. When they were face to face, Azula said, "And everybody said that I was the cunning one. Look at you, attacking when we are tired from a battle you were afraid to fight." When they were going to attack, Ty Lee appeared from behind and Chai blocked the arms of Zuko and Mai. After that, she smiled at Azula and wanted to run and hug her, but Azula was still in her defensive position. Ty Lee wanted to speak, but the words didn't come out of her mouth. Then from behind Toph appeared and asked Azula, "Are you okay?" "I am fine." "What about Goku?" "He will be fine. Let Katara help." Azula looked doubtfully at Aang, but she still let the waterbender to cure Goku. When Katara was still curing Goku, Ursa and Ki went where the rest were. Ki arrived first and put herself in front of Zuko and put on a fighting stance, but Zuko grabbed her from the shoulders. Ursa arrived a few seconds later and saw Goku on the ground while Katara was healing him. She tried to get closer, but Tom Tom put himself in front. Then Azula said, "She is not a fighter, so don't worry about her, Tom Tom." "Tom Tom?" Mai said, and her eyes went wide open. Then Ursa tried to get closer to Azula, but she stopped her. "Azula, could you please don't do that? Goku's safety is the priority here." Then Katara stood up. "He will be fine, but should not do any heavy movements for a while. We may need to take him to a better place." "Sure. Tom Tom. Go to the town and bring someone to help us take Goku back." "Right away." Tom Tom made a little reverence and went running to the town. Mai just looked at him. Then Sokka arrived and asked Toph, "Is he alright?" "He will be. Okay. And I don't know if you realize this, but can you tell me why everybody is barefoot? Except for the dead guy over there and Aang, all of you are without any shoes. Is that part of your fighting style?" Nobody laughed at the joke. Then Aang said, "We have to talk. Training time." Azula sat in an ornamented metal chair and next to her was Toph, who was sitting in a similar chair. Aang, Katara, Suki, Zuko, and Sokka were in wooden chairs in front of Azula. They were in a beautiful garden. A pond was not so far from it. The pond was similar to the one that was in the Fire Nation mansion. "Now, tell us. What did he tell you?" "We have a year. He said that his partners will come in a year." Azula caressed her chin, frowning. Aang looked at Azula and Toph and said, "He said that they are stronger than him." Azula turned her gaze to Aang. He was with a stern look. "The scouter? That was him. He was sent to verify our strength." "It seems so." Azula turned to see the building behind her. The small mansion where she lives with Goku. Toph just patted Azula's shoulder. She sighed and turned her look back to the group in front of her. "Do you know anything else? Maybe he said anything to you before we arrived." "He said that there are another two like him. But no information about their skills or anything, only that they are stronger than him." Sokka was only looking at them, turning his head to the person talking at the moment. But every time someone talked, he scratched his head stronger and stronger until he could not resist. "Okay, that's good and all, but first, who was that guy?" Toph sighed. She could feel with her feet that the other people also wanted to know. He called himself Raditz and said that they are Saiyans. Saiyans? Never heard of that organization. Are they from the Earth Kingdom? Are they related to the story that I told you that time? Asked Aang right after the question of Sokka. Azula nodded. Aang's eyes widened, then he started to think about the information. Sokka again looked at their private conversation. Until that point, the full story of Goku was still a secret to the others. They know that Goku was not blood related to Zuko or Azula and that he was picked up by Ozai himself. That history was not believed at first by the others. How could Ozai, the darkest and villainous man on the planet, could have taken and raised an orphan out of generosity? But when the story was confirmed by Ursa and an old soldier, they only could accept the reality. But the information about the pod that came from the sky was still a secret. Tom left the room where Goku was. He was getting better, his wounds were not critical, and knowing Goku, he was sure that he may be okay in maybe a couple of days. Outside the room was Ty Lee, Ursa's with Key at her side, and Mai. Tom looked at them and made a little nod as a bow, then he started to walk away. Mai stood to stop him. She wanted to say something, but did not know what and remained still. Ursa also stood up and spoke up. "How's Goku?" Before answering, Tom looked at her in the eyes. He sighed after he appeared to have the answer to an unspoken question after he saw her eyes. "He is sleeping. Is he alright?" The healer said that it will take a week. But he is Goku, so it may only take a couple of days for him to be like nothing. Ty Lee smiled as Ursa did. Key just hugged her mother tightly. Tom started to walk again, but he was stopped again by Mai. Her face was serious, without showing her true emotions. Tom looked at her. "How may I help you? We need to talk." In the garden, the others were still talking. "Why are you not telling us the whole information? You really were working with them. That's why you are so secretive about this. Would you shut your mouth up?" Screamed Toph when Sokka was accusing Azula. Goku was injured and a man died. Aang said with a stern look. Katara was on Sokka's side, but she still went and took Aang's shoulders to calm him down. Zuko, who was more like a spectator this whole time, talked. "Do you think that we could approach them more diplomatically?" "That's out of the question. The only answer you will receive from them is a hole in your body," answered Azula without even looking at Zuko. "We will need to prepare ourselves for their arrival." Aang knew where this conversation was going that way. He did not want to fight in another war. But this situation escalated way too much. "Aang, it will be better if you trained with Azula and Goku," Toph proposed. Aang was going to answer, but he was interrupted. "What are you talking about? Aang will not train with them. He can train again with all of us." "Toph, you traitor, I know this was a trap. Shut up, the world is in danger and the only thing you do is find an excuse to antagonize them," said Aang. This kind of situation where Aang loses his temper is very rare. He turned to see Azula. He stood up and bowed. Azula nodded to him. "If you are going to do that, I will be coming with you." "Me too. I will also train with you." The last to speak was Suki. She still had some resentment of her capture back in the woods close to Ba Sing Se. "I will do it too." "No." That was the answer that Toph gave to Zuko when he wanted to train with the others. "You still need to rule your nation." "But imagine if people knew that Azula and Goku are the ones that are training you. What do you think that is going to happen in the Fire Nation?" Zuko just looked away. Then Toph continued. "Suki, Katara, if you want to train, I will be training both of you. Aang needs to train as hard as he can. And you only will be on the way to his training." "How dare." Now it was Aang, the one that grabbed Katara to calm her. And then he nodded to Toph. In a tea shop, located opposite the healer's building, Tom and Mai were sitting across from each other. Mai was still with a serious face, without saying a word, but then she spoke. "Do you know who I am?" "The wife of the traitor lord." Mai did not lose composure of the comment. "I am your sister." "Is that so? You are not surprised." "Why should I? Father told me. Mom stayed because you have an opportunity to seize power. Too bad you haven't done the right thing yet." "The right thing?" "Kill him. You already have his trust." Mai's eyes were with a stabbing look at Tom, then she relaxed. "You do not believe that?" "Not really. Azula and Goku already said that they do not have any desire for the throne. If they wanted, they will have seized the power long ago. No, what I believe is that it's a shame that my own blood chose a traitor over her family. But I guess that's the reason why you made the perfect fit for him." Tom, I stayed with him because I love him. But I also love our family. Our father took you away from us. Save your words. You will not put me against father or against Azula and Goku." Tom stood up and left money on the table and left. While Tom was leaving, Mai followed him with her eyes, then she saw Zuko walking to the healer's building. Inside the building, the guards that were dressing similar to the Fire Nation guards stopped his pass. "Let me pass. I am the Fire Lord." When he said that, a spear went close to his throat. Zuko remembered at that moment that he was not in the Fire Nation. He mistook them for the armor they wear. But then behind him appeared Toph and gestured with her hands, and the guards lowered their weapons. Zuko continued walking behind Toph until they arrived at a small hall where Ursa was. Zuko approached her. "Mom, we are leaving." "I'll stay. I want to stay here, at least until he wakes up." "No, you're leaving." "Azula, You made your decision 14 years ago." Azula said while watching Ki, who was putting herself in front of her mother. Ki felt the pressure of the look of Azula's gaze and flinched a little. "Now, get out, Azula." Zuko put himself in front of Azula. He was frowning and almost ready to attack, but the guards again appeared behind Azula. "Are you treating me, Zuzu? In my territory? You may reconsider it. We all know how weak and pathetic of a fighter you are." Toph sighed for the scene. She just crossed her arms and leaned in the wall. Zuko saw that Toph was not going to help him, so he lowered his defense. Ursa started to shake. Zuko walked outside the building and behind him was Ursa, Ki and Ty Lee. The former looked at Azula, she had her eyes watering, tears about to fall when she saw Azula. Outside the building was Mai. She went with Zuko and followed him as he went in the direction where the war balloon was. The training with Toph was tough. Katara and Suki could not complete the training of Toph. Ty Lee, who also included herself in the training when she heard about it, was the only one that finished the whole session. She felt good, but everybody looked at the kid that was with them. Tom, the younger brother of Mai, was also training with them. Although he was told that he will not participate in the combat against the Saiyajins, he decided to train as he could not do it with Azula or Goku. All of the people were training wearing heavy clothing. Not all of the people there could move freely, and even Ty Lee had problems moving. This made the girls feel a sense of defeat as the young man wore clothes heavier than them and could still train like nothing. The training session was only on weekdays in the morning. The training of Aang was different. He had to train every day and only with one day to rest. Heavy muscle training in the morning with Toph, combat training with Azula in the afternoon, and meditation with Goku. While he was training, he saw his son Bumi. He wanted to train as his father. Aang promised himself that after everything is over, he will take his son to see the world. He still does not know if he is an airbender or a waterbender, or if he is a bender at all. Goku training was set up for him to train in the morning with Azula and the afternoon with Toph. The way of training with them may vary from each day. Azula may want to spar with him one day, and in the other, she could scold him and teach tactics. Toph may also spar with him and meditate with him the next day. Only on weekends, Goku and Aang spar. Unfortunately, Aang is not a good spar partner for Goku. Way too predictable, way too slow, and easily distracted. Aang in Avatar state was different, he was unpredictable, and Goku really got excited when that happened. In one of the days off, Ty Lee finally was able to approach Goku. "Hi Goku," Ty Lee said with a big smile while she tried to cover her true feelings. Her heart was beating frenetically, her stomach had a small pain and a lump in her throat. She could not say anything to Goku last time. After she defended Mai, she has not talked with Goku. She defended her without thinking, but she does not regret that. But she still felt bad about it. She felt that it was unfair to her that she had to choose between two friends. And the worst thing is that her friendship with two people was destroyed at that moment. Goku will always be with Azula, he may not want to talk to me. Will he consider me a traitor? Thought Ty Lee. Hi, Goku answered with a smile and nonchalantly. Of course, he will say hi with a smile. He is Goku, thought Ty Lee, while her sight went a little blurry because of the tears. Are you okay? What happened? Ty Lee shook her head and drew a smile. Nothing. It's been a while. If you can say that again. Ty Lee chuckled a little. So, what are you doing? I was thinking. About what? Well, you know about the energy around, right? Well, the attack that Raditz used was similar to my firebending. But the healers said to me that it was an energy attack. Well, you have always used your energy to make that attack. Wait. So my attacks are not firebending? Ty Lee just shook her head while Goku eyes widened. He started to scream a little and looked ashamed of not knowing before. Well, it makes sense. It seems that I am not a real firebender, I guess. But then, what do you have in your mind? Goku crossed his arms and started to think. He was looking at his arms and then he turned to see Aang, who was carrying his son in the distance. Maybe if I can use my energy, maybe I can use the energy of my surroundings. What are you talking about? Oh, nothing. I will go to train right now. Thank you very much, Ty Lee. I miss talking to you. Ty Lee's eyes widened a little, her ears were hot and could not react to Goku leaving the place. He missed talking to me, she thought. She wanted to say to him that is his day to rest, but he was no longer there. Inside the tea shop of Iroh, Sokka and Zuko were sat in front of Iroh and Piandao. A strange look for Iroh and Piandao was to see Sokka with a serious face for a long time. Normally, it lasts only a few minutes before he made a small joke. They knew Sokka is now in charge of the new country, but they had never been in those discussions. The reason for them to be so serious was because they were telling them about the incoming battle. Two of the most important people in the world. The Fire Lord and the leader of the United Republic were bowing down, asking for help from the two old men. Please, train us, asked both at the same time. We can't stay behind. We can't just wait for things to happen. This incoming battle will put the world in danger. Meaning that the United Republic will be in danger too. Both old men sighed. A smile was drawn on their faces. Aang was trying his best in his training with Toph and Azula, but he always failed miserably to be at her standards. He will welcome her days when he trained the earthbending with Toph in the past, that training was paradise compare with the training he has now. Toph gave her clothes similar that Goku's, which is way too heavy for him. He knew that Azula, Suki and Ty Lee also wear something similar, but they told him that, because he is the Avatar, heavier clothing will be for him. Azula was merciless, she always wiped the floor with him. She even could make comments while sparring. Besides the attack from Raditz, he has never felt this low and powerless. He thought it was unfair that he has to train and spar with the heavy clothing. So, you want to train without the weight? Yes, I know that I can beat you without that much weight in the way. Azula smirked at the comment. She let Aang change his clothing to his usual robes. When he came back, Azula just removed the armor, leaving only clothing similar to what Goku wears. Katara arrived with Bumi in her arms, Toph was also at her side, Suki was on the other side of Katara. When the armor left her hand, the sound of the ground cracking was audible to him. Whenever you are ready. Azula taunted Aang. Aang went and attacked her with air pressure, but she didn't do anything. Aang decided to run and use his airbending to impulse himself and try to attack Azula, but when his foot was close to her, she disappeared and reappeared at his back. Aang grabbed his glider and tried to attack her with it, but she just moved to one side. Aang continued attacking, but nothing landed. Azula had her hands in her back, she just moved to one side, squatted down, and then jumped, and with those moves, she was dodging all the hits of Aang. Katara and Suki's eyes widened, Suki's mouth was open. Toph was bored, but she stayed there, with her hands in the back of her head. Shouldn't we stop this? Aang has no opportunity. No, he has to understand that he still needs to learn more. Honestly, this is his fault for stopping training altogether in the past 9 years. Toph said to Suki. She understood that Aang was having trouble with Azula's training, but when she saw what happened next, it made her understand that he didn't take Goku's training seriously. Azula made a small feint with her shoulders, and Aang covered his head, but Azula aimed at his stomach with a kick, and with that only kick, Aang fell to his knees. Disappointing. Azula said coldly. She looked at him as he was scum. We are here trying to help you, and you still do not try to learn. If you had paid attention to Goku training, you wouldn't have this problem. Get up and try again. We have less than a year to get better. Aang stood up, his legs were trembling, and he was coughing, trying to breathe better. Katara grabbed Bumi's head and put it on her shoulder so he won't see him. That's enough, Aang. You don't have to continue. Screamed Katara. But Aang still went to attack Azula, but he was even slower than before. Aang used earthbending and cover his right arm with rock and then used his left arm to water bend the water in the air and create a whip with it. Azula jumped when the water was close to her and kept dodging the attack until Aang was close. He tried to punch her with his right fist that was covered with rocks. Azula grabbed Aang's arm and using the energy from the trajectory, she made the arm create a circle and with that, the avatar's body spun. And while Aang's body was horizontally in the air, Azula hit him in the air. Stomach again and he fell heavily on the floor. After that Kader gave Bumi to Suki and ran at Aang's side. She covered her hand with water and started to heal Aang. Azula started to walk away and said, "Today training is over with me. You better learn something from Goku or Toph if you want to improve." Goku approached Toph to talk to her before her training could start. "Toph, I want to ask you. Tell me. I have been practicing this new technique, but I want to test it." "Okay, I am set." "Well, I was thinking if you can use your earthbending to make a big rock and make it go super fast." "Oh. Sure, I guess I can do that." "Okay, let me get ready." Goku then relaxed his body and closed his eyes, then slowly he raised his hands. After just a couple of minutes, he opened his eyes and lowered his hand slowly. He clenched his right hand and said, "I'm all set." "Toph, can you use your bending now?" Toph was surprised by the amount of energy that was concentrated in Goku. Only after Goku called for Toph for a second time is when she could react. She smirked and bent a big mass of rock. She started to move it from one place to another so it could gain more momentum. "Let's see if you can track it." The rock passed close to Goku, but he did not flinch. Goku was in his fighting stance with his hand ready. Then he saw the rock and moved his right arm in that direction and opened his hand. It looked like someone throwing a ball, and from his hand. The ball was glowing, and when it touched the rock it destroyed it easily. That thing. That ball. It felt like Aang when he is in the avatar state, right? I thought the same thing when I had it in my hands. How did you do that? Well, I try to borrow the energy of the surroundings. Like what? You know, from the trees, the animals, the air. That is so cool. How do you call it? I don't know. The energy is similar to the avatar state, so maybe spirit bomb. Lame. Goku laughed, but then he left himself fell to the ground and looked at the sky. Toph only sat at his side. "Toph, is it wrong that I am excited about the battle? If it is, we are both in the wrong." The Saibamen, the Chin village is a very peaceful place. It has flourished in the agriculture field, but it has failed to add itself to the United Republic. Still, it has become the point of commerce for the Earth Kingdom and the Kyoshi Island. In the center of the village, there is a plaza where the commercial district is. Once a year, they held the Avatar Day festival. It was a peaceful day, with sunny weather. The people of Chin village were having a normal day until a big explosion happened. 2 spheres fell from the sky and made 2 craters in the plaza. People were scared and started to run from the place. The guard arrived and they stood at the edge of the craters. Suddenly the spheres opened. One of the guards flinched at the sound of the opening of the sphere. From each sphere, a man came out. One was big and bald, he had a thin mustache. He was wearing black and yellow armor. The other was a short man. He had black hair that was standing up as if it were flames. He was wearing white and yellow armor and under it a blue body cloth. Both men were wearing a strange machine in their left ear. That machine had a crystal that went to the front of their eye. The two men started to float in the air. And while doing it, the short one drew a smirk. "Look, Vegeta. They came to give us a welcome. What a bunch of noisy insects. Let me take care of them." After that, the bald man lifted two of his fingers. After that, a bright light blinded all of the people and then an enormous explosion happened. The bald man started to laugh. When the air dissipated, the other man talked. "Damn, Nappa, don't go and destroy this planet. We should be able to sell it for a good price. Sorry, forget about it. Let's search for Kakaroto. Once he is dealt with, we shouldn't have any opposition." With that, Nappa and Vegeta pressed the button of the machines in their ears. A noise came from them and some symbols were displayed. "Well, this is strange. Several readings that over 1000. Don't worry about it. Just search for the highest reading, it seems that we are in luck. All of them are already gathered together." Vegeta and Nappa started to fly in the direction where the machine of his eye told him. "This can't be. It hasn't passed a year," said Azula while standing up from the ground where she was meditating. In front of her were Goku and Tom Tom. "Tom Tom, go back to the city." "No, I want to fight with you. I am not going to say this again. Go back." Tom Tom flinched. Then he started to run in the direction of the city. A few seconds after that, Toph and Ong arrived where Goku and Azula were. Ong looked a little confused. Even when the training of Goku and the multiple tips of Toph, he couldn't learn how to feel the presence of the others. Still, Toph was his friend and she alerted him that the Saiyajins had arrived. Ong, after all his training, was confident that he could be able to defeat them. And most importantly, save everyone, even the Saiyajins. But his confidence vanished when he saw the face of Goku, Azula and Toph. They were frowning and he could swear that they were sweating and shaking. He could not calm himself. But then he saw Goku taking his heavy clothing. Azula was already without it. Toph did the same. Ong was not wearing heavy clothing at the moment but tried to change his gaze to the horizon. Toph ended up in a similar outfit as Goku, but her clothes were all green. She started to move and crack her shoulders and neck. Goku was making some stretching exercises. After Ong watched them getting ready, he calmed down a bit. "The warm-up time is over. They have arrived," said Azula. In the sky, two figures were floating. The two Saiyajins started to descend until they stood on the floor. "It seems that you were waiting for us." "That's right." That voice. "You are the one that killed Raditz." "What? Didn't Raditz tell you? These machines help us to communicate," said Vegeta to Azula while he was pointing to the machine in his ear. Then Ong stood in front. "Is there any other way we can solve this more peacefully?" "Sure. You gave up and we killed everyone without you resisting, but where is the fun in it?" Ong frowned at that answer. Nappa smirked and then pressed a button of the machine in his ear. 1000, 1220, 1500 and 2000. Idiots. You really think that you can beat us with that power? Take off your scouter. What? These people can manipulate their energy. These things are worthless to us now. You're right. That weakling of Raditz was killed because he depended too much on these things. Weakling? Ong could not believe that they were referring to that other Saiyajin as a weakling. We should test them before fighting them. Nappa, do you still have the Saibamen? You really like to play. Azula and the rest looked at them without knowing what was happening. Nappa took a small glass jar and took 6 seeds from it and then he sowed them. Toph started to look green. She grabbed Goku's clothes and started to resist her urge to puke but couldn't. She turned to her back and threw her breakfast. Suddenly, from the earth, green creatures started to pop out. The creatures looked humanoid, they had big heads and red eyes. Their hands and feet had only 3 claws. They were rather short. Those things are disgusting. Can't imagine what you saw down there. Goku tried to be empathetic to Toph after she threw up some of her food. Right after this, Suki, Katara and Ty Lee arrived. What are those things? Katara asked with a face that could not hide her disgust. Nappa looked at them and said, they just keep coming, ha. And right after that, a war balloon appeared. This balloon was gray. From it, a road was thrown, and from it, Sokka appeared. When Sokka was close to his friends he said, hey, I was in the neighborhood and decided to pay a visit. Sokka. What are you doing here? I will never let you alone. And is Team Avatar duty to protect the world? Sokka said while looking at Azula and Goku, who did not care about what he said. Ong knew that his friend's antics were not right for the situation, but he felt good when he saw him. Interesting. Do you think you can handle the Saibamen only because you have 2 more people? Said Vegeta loud. Making the group of the Avatar turn to him. What about this? We will play a little game. If you can beat the Saibamen you can fight us. Azula smiled at the idea. She knew that she could handle all of them. But before she could step in front, Aang did it. "I am the Avatar. I will deal with them." Azula frowned, but Goku only put his hand on her shoulder. She sighed and stepped back. She knew that Aang should be able to defeat those monsters. Vegeta pointed at one of the Saibamen and said, "You, take this one and don't hold back." The green monster only nodded at him and stepped in front. Aang put a fighting stance. Suddenly, the Saibamen started to run to him. Aang used his glider in air to bend the air to send flying the Saibamen. The green creature stood up quickly and from his head, he sent acid to Aang. The Avatar Earth bent a wall to protect himself. When the acid touched the wall, a hole was created. The wall fell and dust covered the field. No one could see anything except for Azula, Goku, and Toph could follow what was happening. The green creature was looking at its surroundings, not knowing when his opponent could show up. Suddenly, from the dust, Aang appeared and hit the Saibaman with the glider and knocked him down. Nappa could not believe what he was seeing. A Saibaman was defeated easily. A Saibaman, who is as strong as Raditz, the same person they have difficulties killing. In contrast, Vegeta was with a smirk on his face. He was pleased that his opponents were not a bunch of weaklings. The Saibamen started to stand up again, looking to attack Aang from behind. Toph warned Aang, and he turned to see the Saibamen, but what he saw surprised him. The short man sent a beam to the Saibamen from the point of his fingers. And when the beam touched the creature, it exploded. "But, Vegeta. Why did you do that?" That Saibaman underestimated his opponent. "I said to him to don't hold back." Aang could not react to that. His eyes were wide open, his legs started to shake. He frowned. Why? Why will they kill their own people? Thought Aang. The malice of those men was beyond his imagination. Azula, unlike the rest of her battle companions, was more at ease. This level of discipline was expected, and more if they could only plant more of those monsters. Still, what made her think was that this man called Vegeta could defeat that monster with a simple hand gesture. Azula doubts that she could do the same with her current power. She looked at Goku, thinking that maybe he could present a good match against that man. The bald man could be as strong as him, so they have to fight with precision. Well, who is next? Another Saibaman stepped in front while the tall bald guy was giving him some encouragement. Looking at the state of Aang, Suki started to walk in front. "I'll go." "Wait." Sokka stopped her. Suki was shaking a bit after watching how the Saibaman was destroyed. She turned to see Sokka and looked, not the young boy, not the guy who started at difficult times, or the one that gave jokes in the worst moments possible. She saw a man, narrowed eyes looking at his opponent. With one hand at the blade that he had in his waist. Since when does Sokka look that mature? Thought Suki. "I'll show them that playtime is over," said Sokka, while walking in front of his friends. And then he put a fighting stance with one hand at the sword sheath and the other at the handle. His feet were firm in the earth. Katara went to Aang and gave him some water for him to drink, which somehow calmed Aang. After he calmed himself, he looked at Sokka, who was standing ready to fight. The Saibaman only started to laugh, then it suddenly disappeared. Katara and Suki had their eyes wide open, not knowing what was happening. Aang started to use his training with earthbending to feel the movements of the creature. He could feel that the monster was moving way too fast. In contrast to them, Goku and Azula were following the movements of the creature with their eyes. Toph also followed the presence of the green monster. Ai Li was shaking a little, and without knowing she was walking towards Goku. Katara looked at Aang and realized that he was able to know where the creature was. While Suki was looking at Sokka, who was still standing in the same fighting stance. Sokka suddenly swung his sword very fast, like trying to slice the air. The moment he did that, the monster showed up jumping over the blade. Sokka used his shoulder to push the creature and then swung his sword up and down. The Saibaman dodged the attacks of Sokka. He went from one side to the other in the ground. The moves of Sokka were too slow for the Saibaman. But the monster knew that it was not about the force, but about the damage the weapon could inflict. So, the Saibaman stood up and jumped backwards to put some distance. Sokka started to run to him, but suddenly the creature jumped in Sokka's direction. Sokka jumped, and in the air, he was able to cut the Saibaman in the back and his leg. When Saibaman was on the floor Sokka's side. He looked like the tents in his shoulder were gone. Nappa only said again. Sokka smirked at the Saiyajins and said, "It seems that these monsters did not mature enough. They are still too green. It's still too early for you to celebrate," said Vegeta. Then the Saibaman jumped to Sokka using the only leg he had left. At the next moment, the Saibaman was hugging Sokka. The Water Tribe warrior tried to force the creature to let him go, but he couldn't. He only looked at the Saibaman, and the creature only smiled at him. Suddenly the green monster started to glow. The big explosion happened. The real battle begins. The explosion light does not let anyone know what happened. All except for 3 people. Goku, Azula and Toph. Azula and Goku were surprised by the sudden change. For the energy that disappeared. Toph could not say anything or move. Only a tear passed from her eye through all of her cheek. After the cloud of dust was gone, the rest also realized what had happened. In the place where Sokka and the Saibamen were, only Sokka's body was. Suki ran to his side and tried to move him. Goku frowned at the situation. It self-destructed. There was burned marks on Sokka's body. Suki's eyes started to show the tears that started to flow down. "He is dead," said Suki while holding Sokka's body. Katara hugged Aang while crying, but he also started to glow. His tattoos were glowing in an intensity he had never done. Aang started to float in the air inside a bubble of air. Azula screamed at Katara. "What is he doing? Tell him to get out of the avatar state. He will waste his energy." Katara knew the strategy that Azula drew for this fight. Aang should use the avatar state only as a last resource. But Katara could not care less at the moment. Her brother died in front of her. She wants vengeance. Aang started to bend the air and throw the rest of the Saibamen into the air. In contrast, Nappa and Vegeta did not move an inch. While the creatures were in the air, Aang started to firebend to the sky. A huge fireball went over the Saibamen. Then he used his earthbending to add a big rock inside the fireball. When the Saibamen started to fall, the enormous fireball was divided into 6. Each of the fireballs also has part of the Rick inside. The attack was directed to the Saibamen and the Saiyajins. When the fire rocks passed through the bodies of 3 of the Saibamen, a big explosion happened. "Stupid," said Azula. Aang calmed after that and went back to Katara. He almost fell, but Katara helped him stand. Suki felt relief that everything was finished. She thought that Aang killed everyone. Then Aang said, "One of those monsters is still." Aang was saying while suddenly one Saibaman attacked Ty Lee from behind. She was still distracted by everything and did not realize about the attack. The Saibaman tried to use its claws to damage Ty Lee. Azula took the monster from the wrist and then threw him into the air, and with her fist, she blasted a powerful blue fire. The body of the Saibaman turned to ashes. "Put yourself together. The real fight will be starting soon," said Azula. After that, she looked in the direction where the Saiyajins were before the attack of the Avatar. Toph nodded and changed into a fighting stance. Katara and Suki did not understand until they looked in the same direction as them. The 2 Saiyajins were still standing as if nothing had happened. And this can't be true. Even in his avatar state, with the power of the spirits. Mumbled Katara. "Spirits, you said. Are you thinking of something, Vegeta? Hey, you blue girl, what's that avatar thing? Is the power of the spirits. Mystical power is given to one person to preserve equilibrium. The power that will stop you." Vegeta smirked at the comment, but Nappa laughed loudly and openly. "Did you hear that, Vegeta?" "Yes. Still, this opens a possibility." "What are you thinking? If this spirit thing is giving him these powers, maybe the myth of the Namakusajin is also true." "Oh, do you mean about the ability to grant wishes? Isn't that just superstitions?" "You may be right. But we do not lose anything by investigating things out. Of course, after we are done dealing with this planet. Well, we didn't have anything to do after this." Nappa smirked and turned to the front, where his opponents were. "Vegeta, will you let me fight them? Suit yourself. If that guy was his stronger warrior means that they are just insects." Nappa's smirk goes wider. After that, Nappa stood in a fighting position. He started to concentrate his power, and the wind of the air stopped blowing. The earth began to shake, and smaller rocks levitated. "Is he earthbending?" asked Katara, shocked by what she was seeing. Toph, Azula, and Goku were in their fighting stances. Katara was healing Avatar from his exhaustion. "He is not earthbending. He is just expelling his energy," said Toph. Ty Lee's eyes were wide open. Suki was frowning, but her eyes were still full of tears. Suddenly, a pressure of air came from where the Saiyajin was. Nappa relaxed and looked at the remaining enemies. He started to run, with great speed, to where Aang and Katara were. A wall of earth appeared in front of him. Nappa passed the thick wall, but when he was at the other side his objectives were not there. He looked to his sides, and then he found them a little far away. Goku have Katara and Aang in his arms. After that, he left them to stand by themselves. Katara was confused. She did not realize when did Goku took her and Aang. She wanted to shout at Goku for carrying her without her consent, but she saved the yell for another time. For his part, Goku was with a stern face looking at Nappa. Suki grew impatient. Sadness, confusion and anger. She was with these overwhelming feelings. Rage made her run to Nappa. She knew that Nappa was stronger than he. She knew that she was not able to accomplish anything, but that did not matter. She wanted to do something. She wanted to avenge Sokka. Suki landed every attack. Her opponent was not even trying to defend himself. All her attacks were focused in his head. Punches and kicks landed, but it looked like she was fighting against solid rock. "This is bothersome," said Nappa before stopping a kick when he grabbed Suki by the ankle. Nappa laughed at her, which made her angrier, but she couldn't do anything, so she spat in his face. Nappa frowned at the disrespect and threw her to a wall of earth. Suki's body passed through the wall. She tried to stand up while coughing some blood. Nappa looked at her and prepared his next attack. Suki's legs were shaking, she was weak, and she knew she was not a match for him. She wanted to do something for Sokka. How many times he asked me out on my days off, but I refused because of training. How many times did I decide to be Zuko's personal bodyguard instead of leaving the work to another person? I am sorry. I never wanted us to be separated. But maybe in the afterlife maybe we can stay together. Suki's train of thought was happening as she was trying to stand up. She was with tears in her eyes but with a smile on her face. Nappa opened his mouth and a bright light appeared from it. His energy arose and it was noticed by Goku and Azula. Nappa, in can-do his technique, was without his guard up. At the opportunity, Azula just smirked. Before Nappa could launch his attack, Toph appeared under him and kicked him up in the jaw. The attack was blasted to the sky with his mouth shut, destroying his frontal teeth. Toph continued her attack and kicked him in the legs and made him kneel down. She proceeded to punch him in the neck to make him put his hands on the floor. Then she earthbent and trapped his hands and legs. Nappa was furious about the attack. He broke free himself when he expanded his energy and went directly to attack Toph. She smirked at the actions of the bold Saiyan. His movements were slower than before and she could easily predict each movement with her earthbending. Suki and Katara's eyes were wide open. Katara hope rose to the skies. She looked just like when she used to be in the Earth Rumble. She was again the blind bandit. Confident and strong. Aang only could smile at the scenery. His earthbending master, his personal friend, she was showing up how fight should be. Ty Lee could not believe what she was seeing. She realized the difference between herself and Toph, but she could not stop wondering about Azula and Goku's true power. Ty Lee turned to see Goku, but he was no longer next to the Avatar, and Azula also disappeared from her side. Toph was still dodging Nappa's attacks and punching him from time to time. Then, after a punch, she dodged him and used that moment to grab Nappa's tail to make him spin. She threw him into the air where Azula was, who attacked him right away with fire bending in her punches and kicks while in close combat. Due to the fire bending, Nappa has a hard time seeing how was he attacked. His desperation rose even more and sent an energy blast to Azula. Nappa smiled at his attack, but then the smoke of the air left. Azula only covered herself with her arms, but she did not receive any injuries. She took her guard down and smirked. Nappa was desperate as his opponent mocked him. Then he realized there was light coming from behind him. Goku prepared his energy to attack him with his most powerful blast of energy. When Nappa realized that he was behind him, it was already too late for him. Goku blasted his attack in Nappa's back. Azula quickly left the front of Nappa and went down. The light of the attack blinded most of the people there. And nobody could see when the body of Nappa fell and landed in Toph's right hand, which was rose up. When the rest people could see again, they looked at the scenery. Goku was flying down and landed at Toph's side and next to Azula. They saw how Toph was lifting Nappa with one hand. Her hand was up and she was lifting Nappa from his back. Ty Lee ran and helped Suki to stand up. Katara and Aang went with them. A sigh of relief was heard. Katara was smiling and Aang was with his eyes wide open. Ty Lee tapped the shoulder of the Avatar and said to him, "Don't worry. He is alive." Aang could only nod and smile. Toph threw Nappa's body to the remaining Saiyan. "This is your last chance. Take your friend and leave." Vegeta was with a stern face. He was standing with his arms closed. Nappa, who landed facing up, turned to see Vegeta. Nappa's spine was broken completely and his back burned to the point where the muscles were also destroyed. Nappa's hand tried to reach Vegeta. "It who hurts?" Vegeta, hell help me." Vegeta looked at Nappa and took his hand. Nappa smiled, but Vegeta smirked and then threw Nappa in the air. The actions of the Saiyan was watched by the others. "I have no use for a paralyzed Saiyan. Now die," shouted Vegeta before he sent an energy blast at Nappa, destroying him completely. A hopeless feeling. Vegeta was standing alone, facing his opponents. Ty Lee, Suki, Katara and Aang were surrounded by fear. Goku, Azula and Toph were standing together, frowning and thinking about what they should do. Azula knew that it was their tactic that let them defeat the bald Saiyan, but this other one could destroy him with a single technique, and the worst thing was that his energy was not drained by the attack. She only wondered about how much of a difference is between her energy and his. Goku and Toph were excited about the prospect of a good fight. In the years they were together, they were able to find their common love of fighting. But they realized that in the current situation, the problem was way too big to let themselves. They should not go with their desires for a good fight. They needed to defeat Vegeta. Goku knew that his sister could come up with an idea to defeat him. But with the current state, he doesn't think Azula knows how to deal with the remaining Saiyan, yet. He has shown that his power was even greater than the previous one. "Let me start the fight," said Goku to Toph and Azula. Azula was worried, but she understood right away. He said start, he wanted them to watch the fight too can come up with a strategy to defeat him. Both Azula and Toph nodded at him. Azula stepped back and turned to see Aang. She frowned and said, "All of you may go." "What? We are here too. You already use your avatar state and you could do nothing. What you do now is just get in the way. All of you." It was getting late, but the battle was going to start. Ty Lee decided to help Suki and take her to another place. Suki refused at first, she wanted to take Sokka's body, but Ty Lee convinced her otherwise. Goku step up and face Vegeta. The short Saiyan smirked. "So, it is you Kakaroto. A low-class warrior against an elite class. Hahaha. I have defeated multiple times those who call themselves elite warriors. An elite warrior from this planet cannot be compared to the Saiyans. Shortly after we are born, our battle aptitude is put to test. The scum who score poorly is shipped off to planets with the weakest inhabitants. Just like you were, and as a result, I was sent to Earth. I am grateful that I wound up here. But let me tell you that power is not everything." Nice attempt at a joke. "Let me show you a wall you will never climb without real power." After that small conversation, Goku and Vegeta put a fighting stance. Suddenly both of them disappeared. Katara and Aang tried to search where they were but to no avail. Azula, who has her arms crossed, was looking at the sky, frowning. Goku dashed to Vegeta and started to attack him, but he could not connect his attacks. Vegeta blocked each one of them, but at the same time, Goku also stopped Vegeta attacks. The difference was that Vegeta was not fighting at his full potential. He was playing with Goku, and Goku realized that. Even when he knows that the world is at stake there, Goku couldn't help but smile. Exciting combat is in front of him, with an unknown foe. Goku tried again, and the same result. None of his attacks landed, and Vegeta started to smile. Then Vegeta sent a small blast of energy, but Goku was able to dodge it. Vegeta smirked and said, "Good, you could at least dodge that. But you have to do better if you want to entertain me. Let's try again." Vegeta went against Goku again, but this time Vegeta was faster. While Goku could block some of the attacks, the ones that landed were direct to his torso. Goku jumped and blasted his energy close to where Vegeta was. He did it to put some distance, but it did not work. Vegeta recovered himself fast enough to can jump and go against him. When Vegeta was close to Goku, he just kicked him and sent him to the ground. Goku fell heavily to the ground. And Vegeta only smirked. "Is that the best you can offer?" Goku stood up again. Vegeta then looked like he was preparing something. Then a light was started to show from his hands. The ball of energy was sent to Goku. Toph used her earthbending to move Goku from his position. Goku jumped high, only to be received by another ball of energy. Goku could barely dodge it. Azula appeared behind Vegeta and grabbed him by the tail, but Vegeta only turned around and kicked her. "You didn't think that I was as weak as Raditz, did you?" While Vegeta was distracted by Azula, Goku appeared and kicked him to the ground. Vegeta was able to recover very quickly, and on the ground, Toph was waiting to attack Vegeta. She ran and attacked him right away, but again Vegeta could block all the attacks of Toph. Vegeta punched Toph in the stomach, and with a kick, he sent her to fly. Goku and Azula arrived right away and continued attacking him. Toph landed on a wall of earth, and her body passed through it. From there, she started to aid Goku and Azula with her earthbending. Unfortunately, Aang was unable to realize that. He saw how Toph landed on that wall of rock and that she had not moved since. Goku and Azula are doing their best, but it was clear as a day that Vegeta was playing with them. Aang was unable to see that the earth around them moved to give them support. Every time that Goku and Azula were thrown away, a small platform of earth appeared on their feet to assist them. It made them gain balance and launch into the battle again. Aang thought that another person had fallen. Aang felt that he was useless, unable to defend his friends. Then he saw how Vegeta threw Goku and Azula away. "I am getting tired of both of you. It's obvious that you are not good enough. But you entertain me. For that, I will show you the power of an elite Saiyan." Suddenly the weather changed. The earth started to shake, thunders were created. "Move away from him," screamed Goku, and Azula obeyed him. Then after a loud shout of power from Vegeta, a crater was made. Ty Lee was close to the city of Tuzin. She could see in the distance the city. Then felt immense energy that came from the battlefield. She turned to see in the direction with a worried face. Suki frowned at the image. A big black cloud was formed around the place where the fight was supposed to be. Ty Lee turned to see the city and saw that there was some commotion due to the earthquake. Vegeta was floating over the crater. "It's over, Kakaroto." Suddenly, Vegeta went against Goku at a speed that even Azula and Goku couldn't see. Vegeta appeared at Goku's back and kicked him. Goku recovered, but Vegeta was again in front of him and he hit him with a headbutt. While Goku's body was still in the air, Vegeta punched him with an elbow. Goku was able to recover before he hit the earth, and thanks to Toph, he was able to impulse himself to one side. Azula distracted Vegeta with a fire disc she created with a kick. Vegeta could dodge the attack and then launch a powerful blast that Azula barely escaped from the impact. Unfortunately, her left shoulder was damaged and because of that, she ended up falling. Aang saw everything. Not even the fire twins could stand a chance. Sokka died, Toph was no longer there, and he could only imagine that the worst happened to her. At that rate, the world was doomed. Everything was his fault. Suddenly Aang started to glow again. Katara screamed to him to calm himself. She knew that Aang was still weak after the last sudden avatar state. But this time, Aang was different. Around him, not only was air, he firebend, he waterbend the water of the air, he earthbend the ground bended him. Vegeta was surprised by the sudden change in his bold opponent. Then in a fantastic speed, Aang went directly against Vegeta. The Saiyan tried to receive him with a punch, but Aang dodged it and grabbed him from that arm and sent him to the sky, and a big fire blast came from his hand. Vegeta covered himself, but he was burned in his ear, and his gloves and part of the pants looked that damaged by the fire. When he removed the arms from his face, he saw that Aang already was in front of him, and then he kicked him in the jaw, and that kick sent him to fly. Vegeta recovered himself in mid-air. The Saiyan was furious, and when he saw that his opponent went against him, Vegeta sent an energy blast, but Aang changed his direction. The Saiyan tried again, but Aang's speed was even faster, and he appeared behind Vegeta. The Avatar used air bending to send Vegeta against the ground. The Saiyan fell heavily to the ground, then earth covered him, and the Avatar sent a big flame against him. Vegeta was able to break free, but while escaping, his back was burned. The Avatar saw him moving and went against him. Vegeta did not know how to approach him. The bubble of air was also surrounded by earth, fire and water. While thinking about it, his opponent could water bend and trap him with the water and send him against the ground again. His hands and legs were trapped again by the earth. Vegeta was angered. He broke free again and put a greater distance between him and the Avatar. Bastard, I refuse to let this happen. I am the price of the Saiyans. I will not be defeated by a human of this race. The Saiyan screamed, and then he felt something that was running close to his mouth. When he cleaned it up with his hand and looked at it, he realized that was his blood. Ah, your insolence will cost you this world. I will blow this planet into a million pieces. Vegeta was in the sky preparing a ball of energy with his hands. Goku and Azula, who were looking at everything, could not believe the amount of energy that was accumulated in the hands of Vegeta. The Avatar started to cover himself with rocks until he formed a big ball of earth, and then he went flying towards Vegeta. Wait, do not do it, screamed Goku to Aang, but he was not heard. Katara was with her hands together, like prying for Aang's safety. Azula, who was with Toph, was looking at the Avatar while he was flying with all his strength to where the Saiyan was. All of you will be destroyed together with this filthy planet Jai Riku HM. Vegeta shouted and released his attack, but Aang was already close to him. In his anger, Vegeta did not care about it, and when the attack touched Aang that was in a short distance, a big explosion happened. Suki was already in the city and was taken care of by some healers. After the last earthquake, many people were injured, and healers began to work on the street to help as many people as they possibly could. Suki was sitting in the street, leaning her back to the wall of some building. Ty Lee standing next to her, and both of them saw the bright light coming from the battlefield. The man riding a mongoose lizard looked at the sky, and then he kicked with his heel so the animal could go faster. Due to the bright light, no one could see what exactly happened. The rocks that covered the Avatar fell in different directions with amazing speed. Toph created a small cover for Katara with her earthbending. Azula protected herself and Toph with her firebending. Goku did not need to cover himself, but he was without words. The Avatar did all he could to stop the Saiyan and to protect the world. Two can do it, he paid the ultimate praise. The Avatar was dead. Katara left the cover Toph did to her and looked at the sky, but not the Saiyan, nor Aang was there. She started to look around and saw where a small crater was, and inside it was Aang. Katara only could go and hug him. Azula was still with a stern look, as Toph was. They realized that the Avatar put himself to protect everybody, but they still could feel the energy of Vegeta. It was weak but was still there. We should be able to take care of him ourselves now, said Toph with tears in her eyes. Azula nodded. That damn fool, he really could damage me. Vegeta barked with anger in his voice. Frowning, covered with dirt and blood. As much as I hate that it's come to this, it seems that I'm left with no choice. With my current energy, even Kakaroto can defeat me. After that, Vegeta realized that the night was starting to show and smirked. He flew down until he could clearly see the remaining opponents. He was panting but with a smile on his face. Katara looked at him with hate. But suddenly she saw something that scared her. Kakaroto, you are going to regret having lost your tail. Vegeta looked at the sky and gazed at the moon. Suddenly his appearance started to change. Fangs started to grow in his mouth, and the mouth also started to get bigger and to the front. His size started to go bigger and bigger. His face was turning into a hog monkey. What is happening? What is that monster? Toph and Azula asked themselves. Toph did not know what happened, but she felt the sudden change of size of the Saiyan. Azula was unable to understand anything. The end of the invasion by the spirits is the only thing that Katara could say about everything. Vegeta looked at Goku and realized the confused face and said, "What do you think, Kakaroto?" Impressive, isn't it? I let you know something. Will Zeruka let you increase your power 10 times. Goku could only frown at the current situation. Azula fell to her knees after she felt the energy of Vegeta transformation. Toph tried to think of anything that could help, but she had nothing. She was never the brain of the group, and at the thought, she turned to see Sokka's body. Everybody, spread Toph, help Avatar's wife. The orders of Goku made Azula react. Suddenly Vegeta started to attack all of them. Goku was running to different sides. Although the big Saiyan was moving slower than before, it was still fast compared to a normal fighter. When Azula and Toph moved from their place, the foot of Vegeta stomped. Toph took Katara and also Aang's body. She moved them to a greater distance than she could at the back of the giant hog monkey. Meanwhile, Azula and Goku were distracting the Saiyan, but Azula was hit by Vegeta and Goku could not help but worry about it. When Goku was flying in Azula's direction, he was hit by Vegeta's kick, which sent him directly to the ground. Vegeta started to laugh. And in his current, the sound of the Saiyan mockery was loud and echoed strongly. Azula was getting up and saw how Goku was grabbed by the giant hog monkey hand. "Let go my brother," screamed Azula and launched a powerful fire attack to Vegeta's right eye. The damage of the eye made the Saiyan let Goku off. Goku was hurt, but he could stand and run through Azula's location. Goku was panting heavily. Azula looked at him, trying to find a major injured, which she feared he may have, but due to the dirt and blood all over him, it was impossible to spot the location or the real injury. Still without an idea for attacking, asked Goku, trying to clear Azula's mind. She, instead of answering, was still worried about Goku. Then Toph arrived with Katara by her side. "I have one." Everybody turned to see Toph. "A moment ago, he said that you will regret losing your tail. Which means that his transformation is related to it. So, the only thing we need to do is to cut his tail." "Sounds good. Did you also plan on how to do it?" "I am not against your plan, but I and Goku cannot go that close. And even in this form, he is still fast. In fact, I did." Toph said and turned to see Katara. The waterbender was confused. "Katara, you will use your blood bending against that monster." Katara's eyes went wide. She promised Aang and herself to never use that bending again. Sokka forbade her to use that bending in front of the fire twins, as it would be their secret weapon. But none of them was anymore. All because of that man. She squeezed her fist and nodded. The three put themselves in different positions and let Azula and Katara be hidden. Azula, in the plan they created, was the one who had to cut the tail. Vegeta was regaining his vision. He was only using his left eye to see. With a burst of anger, he launched an attack against Goku, who was barely dodged. Toph created a platform and went up. She did not want to leave the ground. So once she was at the same height as the Saiyan, she used the same platform to send rocks that have the shape of spikes. All the attack was aimed at his head. The giant hog monkey got covered his face, and then with a swing of his arm, the platform was destroyed. Before falling, Toph used the rocks to send a giant disc to his throat. Vegeta covered himself from the attack. When the Saiyan looked where the green-robed woman was, but he did not find anyone. Suddenly he saw a light coming from his right, and when he turned to see what was happening, he saw Goku preparing an attack. The giant Saiyan smirked and jumped like trying to step over Goku, but he stopped in the air. While what? Vegeta did not know what was happening. In Goku's right side was Katara. She was using all her strength to make the blood bending. She has already bent an enormous amount of water, but never this amount of blood. Azula started to run and jumped high and spin in the air. In her spin, she firebend with her feet and a disc of fire went directly in the direction of Vegeta. The fire disc went directly to the tail, but it only went close to it. The tail moved up and dodged the disc. Katara ran tired of the bending and could not hold it any longer. The Saiyan landed on his feet. "You're full of surprises. But none of your tricks will help you." Vegeta then turned to face Katara, tried to punch her with his giant fist. Goku was able to help her to dodge it, but the punch was too close and the pressure of the impact of the fist and the field made Goku and Katara fall in different directions. "You again, Kakaroto? If you really want to die first, so be it." Vegeta, this time, only walked in Goku's direction and raised his foot. Katara heard and saw everything. At that moment, she remembered how the Fire Nation took her mother. She remembered how many of her friends were captured in the invasion of the Fire Nation. She remembered the fear she had of Goku when she saw him firebending in the eclipse. She remembered how easily she was defeated by him when she fought him in the Fire Lord mansion. She remembered Aang. She remembered her husband. And remembered what he said to her about Goku. "Well, he is kind of a funny guy. If other were the situation, I bet we would have been best friends. I mean, his name is similar to Roku, my past reincarnation. Maybe that's a clue from the spirits or something." Katara stood up and bloodbent again. Vegeta was stopped again, frowned, and then he smirked. From his mouth, a light was forming, and it was obvious to Katara that he was aiming at her. Katara closed her eyes. She knew that she could not do anything else, but then the eye of the Saiyan went wide open. The energy on Vegeta's mouth was no longer there and suddenly a loudly sound of something heavy falling was heard. From behind the Saiyan, Zuko appeared. In each hand of the Fire Lord were swords. Goku got himself up with help of Toph, and Katara went with them. Katara was very tired from the blood bending. She hasn't trained her blood bending, and her water bending is used only for her everyday course. Azula spat at the sight of Zuko, but could not feel more than happy about his sudden appearance. Thanks to him, Goku is still alive. Damn it, I did not know that there was another insect around, said Vegeta while panting heavily. He had transformed himself into his normal form. Enraged by the situation, Vegeta started to look around. He saw the man with the swords in his hands. He was standing there like waiting for the attack. "Get away," screamed Goku, but Zuko's pride and ignorance of his opponent's strength made him stay. Vegeta ran where Zuko. The Fire Lord used his swords to cover the attack, but the fist of the Saiyan broke them and a fist went directly to Zuko's stomach. Zuko was gasping for air. Vegeta only took him from his clothes collar and then headbutted in his forehead, making the Fire Lord start to bleed. The Saiyan frowned and tossed Zuko to the ground. "To think that a weakling like you made such an offense to the prince of the Saiyans," said Vegeta while preparing an attack, but Goku stood up and attacked Vegeta, and with a kick, he sent him to fly, but Vegeta recovered himself. Goku tried to continue attacking, but his moves were slow, and the Saiyan could kick him and send him away. While Goku and Vegeta were fighting, Toph went with Azula. "We should help him. We should, but we also need to buy time for Goku." Azula turned to see Toph. She read between her words and realized something. Azula smirked and said, "Another plan? Yeah, first time I heard a plan from you, and now you have two. Maybe you were the Avatar's brains behind the scenes." "Maybe I was." Toph smirked at the comment. "We need to buy some time for Goku. He has an attack that has the power of the Avatar." "What? Why he didn't use it?" In his words. "It's way too strong to fully control it." Azula frowned when she heard the reason. Toph continued talking. "It will be almost suicidal, I know. But there is no other way. We will defend this planet or die trying." Azula chuckled at her own comment. She never thought that she will be in the position of a hero, similar to the Avatar. "I will distract the bastard. You go with Goku, tell him to prepare that attack." Toph nodded and ran alongside Azula, where Vegeta and Goku were. Azula kicked Vegeta in the head and continued her attack. Goku was going to follow, but his feet were trapped by the earth. Toph arrived and removed her earthbending from his feet. While everybody was occupied with the fight, Katara ran to Zuko and helped him stand up. Zuko felt impotent. He just arrived and he was already out. He wanted to go and help Azula, but Katara stopped him. Katara saw Zuko hitting the earth with his fists. He was crying. "I can't believe myself. The moment he broke my sword's eye, I froze. It was like facing my father again. I couldn't do anything." "That is not true. You save your brother's life. You save everybody's life when you cut his tail." Zuko turned to see her. She was full of tears but with a smile. He wanted to ask the whereabouts of Aang but stopped himself. He looked around and saw the multiple craters around. Katara turned to see the rest and Zuko followed her gaze. Zuko and Azula were confused. They could see that Toph and Azula were fighting, but Goku was standing in another place. He was with his hands in the air and with his eyes closed. Goku was concentrating himself to create the attack. He would be able to create it only once, and it was a small version. This time he knew that will only have one opportunity and should not waste it. He focused on himself to use the energy of the forest nearby, the energy of the city, the energy of the desert, the energy of the animals and humans around. He was careful to bring enough to defeat Vegeta and probably kill him. He was also careful to not take more than he is capable of controlling. After a couple of minutes, Goku felt that he had enough energy and opened his eyes. He looked in the direction where Vegeta was. Unfortunately for him, he was too tired. He did not have enough confidence to launch the attack while Vegeta was still moving and Azula and Toph were close to him. Katara saw Goku. In his hand was a blue sphere. She could only deduce that he wanted to launch it against the Saiyan. She looked at the Saiyan and realized that he was able to defend himself against Toph and Azula. She had some water that she planned to use on Zuko but decided to use it to attack Vegeta. She ran where Toph and Azula were. Once she was close, she used the water as a whip and attacked the Saiyan. Azula, due to her exhaustion, could not use her firebending and was only fighting with her legs and fist. Toph could not concentrate enough to can earthbend and only used it to locate her opponent as this part of her earthbending was part of her nature. Vegeta was tired but with enough energy to fight this opponent, but with a third person, the pressure became even higher. Katara used her water and created spikes of ice. Azula and Toph move away. Vegeta, when he saw the spikes, decided to jump. Goku was watching everything and saw Vegeta jumping to dodge Katara's attack. Goku took that opportunity and launched his attack. Take this. Vegeta turned to see the ball of energy, but he was too tired to dodge it. A bright light appeared when the ball hit the Saiyan. Nobody could see directly to the explosion. The sky, which was turning black for the night, lit up like day for a brief moment. Lee and Suki looked in the direction where it looked like a small sun were formed, and then it disappeared right away as it moved away like a shooting star. Goku was able to see after a few moments. The light of the attack was gone. There were no Saiyan in the sky. Goku only could smile, and his body fell directly to the ground. Katara also looked at the sky, and when she did not see her opponent, she drew a smile. Zuko did not know what happened, but one thing was sure to him. The Saiyan was no more. Azula and Toph were panting heavily, but both of them were frowning. They could feel the energy of Vegeta, but he was too far for them to go after him. Vegeta was injured badly. But what was worst for him was that he was defeated by the attack of a low-class warrior. The planet was full of weaklings, but he was defeated. He landed in a desert where only sand was around him. He does not know in which direction are his opponents. But the worst was that even if he knew, he won't be able to kill them, not with his current state. Damn it, screamed Vegeta. He was still panting heavily. Then he took a small device from the inside of his armor. He pressed some buttons and then put it back inside his armor. To think that I'd be forced to run away, said Vegeta while clenching his fists. Azula and Toph were still deciding about searching for the Saiyan or not when suddenly, in the sky, they saw a sphere moving quickly in the direction where the energy of the Saiyan was. Zuko and Katara also saw the strange sphere and looked in the direction it went. Zuko saw Azula, who was frowning. After the sphere passed over them, a few seconds later, the energy of the Saiyan was not there anymore. Azula and Toph thought that the Saiyan escaped, but at that point, they couldn't do anything. Toph exhaled the air she didn't know she was holding. Katara and Zuko get close to them, but Azula left them and ran through Goku. Toph smiled when she realized the sudden caring side of Azula. We should be heading back to the city. A new plan. Toph walked side by side with Katara. Behind was Zuko, who was trying to check on his siblings who went directly to the city. Azula was helping Goku with one of his shoulders, but then Goku fell to the ground as he suddenly lost all his strength. The battle took a lot of Goku's energy. He used all his energy left in the spirit bomb. The injuries did not help him at all, and due to the damage, he lost consciousness. Zuko saw Goku falling and went to help. Azula frowned for the help of her older brother, but said nothing. Her worries were in Goku. Wait a moment, please. Zuko left for a moment and then he came back with a mongoose lizard. He put Goku over the animal and gave the reins to Azula. Azula did not take the reins from Zuko's hand but from another end and walked in the direction of Tuzin. Toph smirked when she saw everything. She went where the bodies of her friends were. Katara did not cry, she was unable to. She felt pain in her chest and felt angry and helpless. She cursed herself for not being strong or brave enough. Her brother was a non-bender, he wasn't the best swordsman either. His brains were the best of him and he was the one that planned the invasion. He was brave. Aang knew what was going to happen when he went against that Saiyan. He flew in his direction to save the world. She couldn't do anything, she could only stop him for a brief moment and the monster could break free. Toph put both bodies close to the other. Her eyes looked to nowhere. Being blind did not help her friends know what she was looking at. Katara, do you still have energy? If you do, could you put both on ice? Katara, confused, turned to see Toph. Remember what you told me about how you found Aang for the first time? Katara did not want to think more about it. She nodded and started to concentrate. After a few minutes, she could gather water from the air and put Aang's and Sokka's bodies in a block of ice. Good. In the city are just a few waterbenders. We can ask them to help us once we are there. The first to arrive in the city was Azula and Goku. The city was calmer now, but the citizens were worried that Goku arrived unconscious. When Toph arrived with Katara and Zuko, she asked one guard to bring the waterbenders in secret. Katara went with them. Zuko went close to Toph and asked, "What are you going to do with their bodies?" "I'll explain once we are all together. We were together back there, so why you?" "No, I mean all together." Zuko went silent. A guard arrived to report Toph about the current state of the city. Toph left Zuko's side and started to give orders and asked for a healer for herself. 1 week have passed. Inside the room where Goku had been after the battle was Azula and Tom Tom. Azula was sat in a chair close to the window, reading some papers with her legs crossed. Tom Tom was talking to Goku about his current progress with training. Goku was in the bed with an exaggerated number of bandages. He was unable to move his body without feeling pain. There was a knock on the door and without waiting for any response, the door opened. Azula only looked over the papers in her hand and saw Toph. Knowing what was going to happen next, Azula sighed and put the papers inside a drawer next to Goku's bed. When Toph entered the room, she was followed by Katara, Ty Lee, Suki, Zuko and Mai. After them, another 2 people entered and Azula frowned at their presence. It was Iroh and Ursa. Fortunately, the room was big and with enough furniture. Toph smiled and tapped Goku's leg. Hey Goku, how are you doing? Hey, yeah. It hurts. Haha. Come on, Goku. You are getting soft. Haha. Thank you for visiting me, Toph. Toph stood next to Goku and Tom Tom. Should I go? Yes. Tell your father that we will be having a meeting in 2 hours. Tom Tom nodded at Azula's orders and left the room. Mai only followed him with her eyes, but her body remained still. Once he left, Toph gestured to the others to take sit. A moment of silence was in the room. Everyone, except for Goku, was with a serious face. Toph thought that Azula was going to start to talk, but she has not said anything, and Toph started to think that it was a bad idea to bring Iroh and Ursa. In reality, she only asked Iroh, but Ursa asked for a moment to see Goku. Toph was against it, but Iroh and Zuko insisted on it. Goku was oblivious to the situation. When the door opened and the only Toph said hi, he thought she was the only one who arrived. He has not tried to feel the presence. By Azula's orders, he has been concentrating and make his energy go through his body to help the recovery process to speed up. Toph cleared her throat. Ahem. Well, we are all here to discuss what is going to happen now. Everyone looked at Toph, except for Azula, who grabbed a fruit that was supposed to be for Goku. Neither Goku looked at Toph, as his position in the bed did not let him. You mean finding the new avatar? Katara, with a mean look, turned to see Mai. Unfortunately, that won't be possible. What do you mean? The avatar cycle was broken. Are you sure? Iroh stuttered at the news. The rest looked at each other, except for Toph, Azula, and Katara. Neither Goku did, but he couldn't due to his position. Ong-He the avatar Ong sacrificed himself to save the world. And he did it while in avatar state. What does it mean? Goku was ignorant about the whole information of the reincarnation process of the avatar. He only knows that a new avatar is born as soon as the other died. Unfortunately for Goku, nobody told him about it and no one wanted to explain it to him at the moment. Now. We have a plan. Said Toph while she was pointing at Azula. First. I know that our plan will sound a little ridiculous to all of you, but please hear me out. Katara looked at the floor, like not wanting to continue being there. She started to remember the moment of the battle when Aang went directly to the Saiyan. Toph was nervous. She sat down, and with her normal posture, she put her face down. Her foot fingers started to move for the pressure of what she was going to say. Don't get your hopes up, but there is still a chance to bring Aang and Sokka back to life. What are you talking about? Zuko frowned after hearing Toph. He was in disbelief about the statement, no one in his right mind will believe that. But then again, he was the avatar. Azula looked at Toph. She sighed when she saw her friend under too much pressure. Did you do as you were instructed, Prince Zuzu? As Fire Lord Zuko. And yes, we retrieved the sphere. Well, that is the ship he used to arrive at our planet. At this rate, all of you know that they are from outside our planet. All of the visitors felt uncomfortable when Azula took charge. And worse for them was that she was right. Right, well, in the fight, they talked about other people that had powers like Aang. They said that they have some sort of ability to grant wishes. By the way they said it, it seems that it's related to the spirits. So what we have to do is go with those people and ask them to bring Sokka and Aang back with the power of the avatar. Toph concluded and sighed. She felt like a big pressure left her shoulders. Iroh started to caress his bear and said, well, if there are other people in the stars. It may be normal that there will be spirits also helping them. I would want to meet them. Katara stopped looking at the floor and gazed at Toph and Azula. Her eyes stopped when looking at Azula. She was the image of the enemy, she and her brother. She is the same person that attacked them and cornered Aang in this exact city. She is the same person that nearly killed Aang in Ba Sin Sea. And now is the person that came up with a plan to bring him back. Mai did not support the idea. Maybe they really needed the water tribe guy in their group, thought Mai before saying. Let's think that it is real. How are you planning to find it and to travel there? Using the same ships. Said Ty Lee, while her voice was full of hope. Have you seen them? Only one person can go inside. And we have only one. 3. Toph corrected while smirking and getting her confidence back. As you said, only one can enter those ships. And 4 of them have arrived on our planet so far. 4. All the visitors, except for Katara and Suki, asked screaming at the same time. Yes. So far, we have located 2 of their ships. The third is in Wan Shai Tong's library. For that reason, we need to keep the bodies in the best condition possible. Who is? Goku? Now continue. Suki answered the question Mai was going to ask. She wanted to know the details and find a way to bring back Sokka. Mai gave her a mean look, but Suki did not care. Right. Well, at the moment, we need to cover up the imminent problem of the nations and select who is going to go. What if you get lost there? Come on. I was a blind girl who went around the world and fought in a war. A small trip to the stars won't be that difficult. You are going to go? Out of all people here, I am not that essential. Zuko needs to rule his nation, Katara needs to cover up Aang and Sokka's job, and Azula needs to run the city. I can be of some assistance in Republic City. I was once a crown prince and received the education to do that job. I will also go to that planet. Goku said while looking at the ceiling because he could not see anyone from his position. Toph smirked when hearing Goku, and Azula sighed while shaking her head. Azula knew that Goku would say that, and she couldn't say anything to stop him, but that does not mean that she approved it. Iroh frowned when he heard that Goku wanted to go. He still had his doubts about Goku and Azula, but the arrangements about the nations should be sorted. I will also go. Suki stood up. In her face was a stern face. Toph only nodded with a smile. The week after the meeting, Katara, Toph, and Azula were over Appa. With them, there were 4 disciplines of Toph. The flying bison was flying slower than it normally does. After the death of Aang, Appa started to look sick and depressed. Katara was the one in charge to guide the flying bison. She looked at the surroundings and started to make the landing maneuvers. Should be around here. When they landed, Toph's disciplines were the only ones that got down from Appa. They started to earthbend the sand to move it away. After a couple of minutes, they reached the ground. The earth beneath the sand was yellowish and porous. Toph jumped from a pan and stood in the earth with her bare foot and concentrated. It only took her a few seconds to locate the place to go. She pointed to her right and the earthbenders started to clear the path. Behind her, in the sky, was Appa with Katara and Azula. A couple of minutes passed and Toph finally asked her disciplines to stop. She walked close to a small crack in the earth, her disciplines walked behind her. Toph lowered her stance, put her fist in front of her. Like she was trying to separate the bars of a prison cell, Toph started to move her hands, and while doing that, the earth started to shake. The crack started to open more and more. The sand that was on the edge fell to the crack. Inside the hole, part of the library's tower could be seen. Katara made Appa land again, and then they got off the flying bison. Azula and Katara stood behind Toph. Toph disciplines ran around the crack and put themselves in a bending position to make part of the library show up. After a window was completely visible, only 2 of Toph disciplines grabbed the sides of the library. The others started to earthbend the floor to maintain the crack open. Toph left her position and turned to Katara. You sure you don't want to come along? I am sure, if I go with you, it will only bring problems. Toph may have given a confused look because Katara sighed and said. Let's just say that the Guardian does not like me or anyone who came in our previous visit. Let's just enter. Azula hurried Toph and both entered the library. Toph and Azula entered the library and descended with her flying technique. Toph was touching Azula's shoulder to direct herself to the ground. Once both landed, Toph concentrated to find the ship of Goku. It took her just a few seconds. I found it, but there is someone here with a strange energy. Do you feel it too? The place is connected to the spirit world. I don't think that it is too strange for that to happen. Right. Well, let's move on. Toph started to run in one direction, and Azula followed her. Azula saw some foxes above the bookshelves. She didn't pay them attention and kept following Toph. After a while, Toph and Azula stopped in front of a massive door. Toph smiled and kissed the tips of her index fingers, then she proceeded to use both to blend the door and make a hole. Toph gestured with her hand to let Azula pass, but Azula just pushed the door without much strength and it opened completely. You're no fun. The ship was not going to pass into it. When both entered the door, they discovered many artifacts. Machines from the Fire Nation and the Earth Kingdom. The prototypes that were once worked for the war. Old weapons. Spears, swords and shields. Part of the room was full of armors and Azula recognized some of them. In a corner, they found Goku's ship. It was clean and without any scratch. When Azula tried to grab it started to roll and it hit a door that went wide open. Inside there was a strange scene. A pink cocoon was there. Azula could feel the energy from the cocoon, it was alive, but it had a very strange energy. It was like good and evil were fighting each other. What is that? I don't know. As I said, this is the spirit world. It could be the heart of the place as far as we know. We don't have much time, your disciplines can't hold the place all day. Toph grabbed the ship and used her metal bending to make it stay in her hands. When they were close to the bridge near the window they came from, a giant bird appeared. What do you think are you doing, thieves? Thieves? You are the one who stole this from the military base of the Fire Nation. That is a ball of the skies. A fallen star. And it belongs to the library. That is not a falling star. But of course, what can I expect from a bird brain? I will not allow such an insult. I am Wan Shai Tong, guardian of the library. You mortals can't best me. Azula smirked at the comment of Wan Shai Tong. She just pointed at the bookshelves behind the library guardian and shot an energy blast. The bookshelves were destroyed in seconds. What are you doing, you fool? I also love knowledge, but I hate thieves. Now let's start again. Azula frowned and pointed at Wan Shai Tong with her hand. I will take what is mine, like it or not, but you can decide if the library will be without a guardian from now on. The giant bird stepped back and did nothing after that. Azula and Toph flew up, and Azula blasted energy one more time to make the window bigger enough for the ship to pass through it. Azula positioned herself behind Toph and guided her outside. Once Azula and Toph were outside with Goku's ship, Toph's discipline stopped holding the tower, and it started to go down. Once the whole tower was under the earth, a small earthquake started, and the crack in the floor closed. Destination Namekusei. The month has passed after the attack of the Saiyajins. Goku has recovered almost all his strength. New training was created by Goku and Toph, but because the body of Goku was not fully recovered, they never put it into action. Suki made her brief training worthwhile. She has been training with Azula and Toph without a rest. Azula has been busy with the training and the reconstruction of the city. After the earthquake that happened for the display of the power of the Saiyajins, many buildings were destroyed. Earthbenders, who are interested in the construction, had to show different projects to make the buildings resist earthquakes. These problems made her unable to keep close track of Goku's progress. Unfortunately for Azula, the time she spends on her work, it's the time her mother is passing with Goku. Still, there are minor wins she had that made her day. In a small talk with Toph, she realized some of the conversations of Goku and Ursa, and in those, Goku has said that he preferred Azula's food and Toph's jokes. And their conversation is related to his training with them, leaving small topics for Goku to can talk about with Ursa. Today they are trying to realize how the ships work. In the place is Suki, Goku, Toph and Azula. They already knew how to open the ball, but inside they saw a small part where a bunch of buttons were. Toph realized at that moment a big problem in her plan. She does not know where the planet is exactly or how to identify it. As far as they knew, it could be any star in the sky. Due to her realization, she started to become nervous and a little grumpy. They have been checking the ship for hours without any advance. Toph used her metalbending in the sphere to check what was inside, but she could only identify a bunch of metal strings, cables, and weird shapes inside the ship. After a while, Ursa arrived with tea for everyone. Ki and Izumi were with her. Ki was taking care of her niece, but got distracted by Toph. Ki still admired Toph to a certain point. She knew that the Avatar was the one that should make peace, but she could not help to think Toph was better. She was the chief of the police and has to stop multiple bad people, and she can fly, while in contrast, Aang has been flying around the world with his bison. While Ki tried to talk with Toph, Azula kept checking the spheres. She entered one, sat and started to check if there was anything on the top inside. Izumi walked to the pod where Toph was sitting, and then the small girl started to press the buttons of the ship. Toph and Ki tried to stop her, but then, a voice came from the machine and said, "Wakuse for plus A79, Wakuse for plus A448, Wakuse for plus A17, Y Dorado say, Chikik, M plus to say, Nameku say." Did you hear that? It said Nameku something. Toph went out of the pod and hugged the baby girl, who answered with a big smile. Azula started to look for the same button and found it. She was glad that something was able to be done that day. She does not know how much progress was that, but it was better than before. While the rest were in better spirits, Azula decided to rest a little. This month was the busiest she had her whole life. That was a big mistake. Izumi, in her mind, thought she did something good and that made everyone happy. The baby saw that one of them was not happy and wanted to help her and walked to her. The rest looked occupied with other things, so no one said something against it. When the baby arrived at the ship, she started to press the buttons again so that another person could also be happy. After pressing the buttons, the door closed, which woke Azula. To her surprise, and the others that turned to see to the direction of Azula when they heard the door of the sphere getting closed, the ship started to levitate and went directly to the sky. Everybody was in shock at what happened. Ursa ran to protect her granddaughter that fell to her back and started to cry. Goku and Toph went directly to their pod and started to look for a button that could help them. Toph pressed a big button, and the pod also closed its door and started to fly away. Goku saw her and pressed the same button with his open palm, and his pod did the same. The top of the building where they were was destroyed. No one was injured, but they were in shock. Suki felt powerless because she couldn't go, but after calming down, she could only hope they would succeed. In the space, Azula finally calmed herself. It was after she said how she was going to kill Zuko's daughter, along with her entire traitorous family. She had to change the way she will execute her plan about 5 times before she was satisfied with an idea and finally calmed down. Suddenly, a voice came from the pod. "Is there a food button?" Azula realized there was a blinking button, so she pressed it and said, "Goku?" Azula, this is amazing. It seems that the button that was blinking is two can communicate. Azula sighed and smiled. At least she was with Goku. And the two's in city should be able to continue with her absence. At least she can count on Tom Tom and his father Yukano. Why is Toph not responding? Because she won't be able to see the button. Oh. Hahaha, forgot that. Toph, if you can hear us, press the button that is blinking. Goku, oh, right. Ahem. It should be the button on the top right. Left. Azula sighed a little, and the voice of Toph sounded. Seriously? Once we arrived, I will punch you, Goku. Ahaha, sorry. Now what? We came unprepared. I was thinking of bringing some food, but now we are going to be in this little space for we don't know how long it will take to arrive. Oh, come on. It should not be that long. Goku, remember that it took Saiyajins 10 months to arrive. Only the spirits know how long it will take us. We are already here, so don't get desperate. It will only make you waste your energy. This was a suicide mission from the beginning. So Toph, I know it will sound weird, but right now, we need to be a little more like Goku. Oh, thank you, sis. You hardly price. Only a little, don't get too oblivious like him. Hey. Toph laughed at the comment. It passed several hours, and the talk died out. No big things were discussed, only their idea on what to do as soon they arrive and check for the locals to ask for the wish. But then Goku realized that a blue button was blinking. Hey, girls. There is a new button blinking. Should I press it? Where? The blue one. It seems that is a button to sleep. How do you know that? When I pressed it, it said sleep. Goku could hear the Toph and Azula siding at the same time. Let me check it. Don't do anything else. Azula ordered Goku and took his silence as a confirmation. The button it's in the center left, so you also know Toph. Thanks. Azula pressed the button and a voice came and said, surplus pumdun. She admitted that the word does sound like sleep. Then in the crystal in front of her, some symbols started to display and it looked like 4 options were available and a line was selecting the last option. Azula pressed the button again and the voice said, Ikasakita. After that, the lights were off. Azula. Did something happen? Azula. Toph was getting anxious. Azula got silent and she tried to communicate with Goku and Azula, but none of them were answering. She was getting suffocating fast heartbeats, her hands were sweating. With her trembling hands, she pressed the button on the center left, suddenly her body felt lighter. 30 days passed. But for Toph, it was only 1 day of sleep. A sleep she did not know she needed. She felt a very pleasant breeze and when she planted her feet in the small space the ship allowed her, she realized that the ship door was open and that it already landed. She stepped out of the pod, in her right was Goku and Azula's pods. As fast as her feet touched the ground, she started to study her surroundings. She realized that they landed in a place with enormous canals. Some trees around and little mountains here and there. The next thing he did was get into a combat position and levitate part of rock from the ground with his earthbending and send it into the water around them. After that, she felt satisfied that she could earthbend on this other planet. Azula and Goku were stretching themselves. When Toph earthbended, Azula could only smirk and she also did her own test with her firebend, but unlike Toph, she only made a small flame in her hand. After they could check that their bending worked on the new planet, all of them started to think about the new plan. When Goku relaxed, he felt 3 energies that were beyond him. Their strength was even bigger than Vegeta, especially one, and the worst is that the energy felt like if it was evil. Goku couldn't describe his feelings about that energy very well, but from the looks of the other two, he realized that they felt the same way. Azula felt an enormous amount of energy, but she also felt the energy from other people coming from the opposite direction. Hoping that the energy on the opposite side was more amicable, she ordered to move to that way. Meanwhile, in a large spaceship, a small man was sitting on a floating chair that was shaped like an egg. The man had 2 horns coming from his head, white skin and purple lips. He was wearing a similar armor to the one that Vegeta used. He has a tail that was in light purple, and the end was darker. In front of him, it was a crystal window, which was showing some information in a strange language. At the right of the small man was 2 other people. One was tall and slim, his hair was green, long and braided, and was wearing a small jewel on his forehead, his skin was blue light. The other was shorter but wide, the skin was pink and with small spikes on his head and arms. The light blue skin man talked to the small one that was sitting. Lord Frieza. We received reports of ships from some Saiyajins. Is it Vegeta and his monkey partners? Although Vegeta does not arrive with them, the ships were from the Saiyajins who were killed on the planet they last visited. Oh, right. I forgot all had died. Please remember me to pay a visit to that planet. I have to congratulate them. Of course. And what are your orders about these individuals? What are their power level? The reading said they peaked at 500 before disappearing. Really? Those are the people that defeated Vegeta. Well, if I recollect, in their talks, they said something about bending and spirits. Hahaha. You don't believe in that trash, do you? Now. Zaban, Dodoria, calm down. There are no worthy of our time. But I will follow Zaban's suggestion. Send a small group of scouters in that direction, and if they find them or a village tell them to report immediately. Thank you, Lord Frieza. I'll do it right away. The Dragon Balls. Toph, Azula and Goku arrived at a village. The houses looked weird, they were molded to look like giant insects. The inhabitants were all green-skinned. On their heads, they have two antennas, no eyebrows, and were wearing clothes that look like the clothes of the sandbenders, but with more color. The three of them landed on the edge of the village. Azula was in front and they started to walk inside the village. The young adults and the kids were looking at them. Suddenly a tall, strong Nameku Seijin walked in front of them. "Who are you?" "Greetings. We came here to talk with the leader of this place. You can speak with me. I said that we need your leader. You are neither the strongest nor the oldest of the village and obviously not the smarter." To the comment, a small Nameku Seijin chuckled. The man in front of Azula growled, but he was stopped by an old Nameku Seijin. He was using a staff but did not look like he needed to walk. Maybe it's a symbol to represent the leadership, thought Azula. "I am the leader of this village. Could you tell me, what is your purpose here?" Azula bowed a little, making the Fire Nation sign with her hands. Behind her, Goku did the same and Toph bowed, putting her fists together. "It is a pleasure to meet you. We will want to talk to you, but I don't know if we can do it in a more private place." The old Nameku Seijin saw the three strangers for a moment, then nodded and said, "Follow me." Azula, Goku and Toph followed him inside the strangely shaped house. "First, let me introduce myself. My name is Snide. I am the Patriarch of the village. Could you please let me know your names?" "My name is Toph, Chief of Police in the United Republic." "I am Goku." "My name is Azula, Princess of the Fire Nation and current leader of the Tuzin City." United Republic, Fire Nation or Tuzin are not places I know of. We came from another planet. On our planet there is a guardian that can maintain balance, but a few months ago, he was killed and with him, the power to restore balance. We came here because we heard that your people have a way to grant wishes. Goku ended the explanation that Toph couldn't. The Patriarch nodded as he understood they were saying the truth. "You want to wish for the order to be restored?" "No, we need that the guardian could resurrect alongside the power." "Why is that?" "Because the balance will always be moving towards good and evil. If we wish for that, the peace will be temporal. We need the guardian to be there every time that happens." The Patriarch smiled and nodded. The girl had good brains in her head. She may have a little more evil than the other two, but her heart is in the right place, or so he thought. "Very well, I can help you, but I have to let you know about something. Please, follow me." The old Nameku Seijin stood up and walked to the next door. At the end of the room, a giant orange ball was on a small altar. The ball was made of some kind of crystal, and inside the ball, you could see red first stars. That, my friends, is a Dragon Ball. It's the 4-star Dragon Ball. With this, you can ask for your wish. But please hear me carefully. Goku was amazed by the ball. It was bigger than his head and it may cover all of his chests. Toph smiled when she heard that it was true, that they could revive their friends. Azula sighed mentally and she felt a lot of pressure out of her. The Patriarch started to talk again. "There are a total of 7 of them. You need the 7 and after that, the Great Purunga will show up and grant you 3 wishes." Three, but we only need 1. The old Nameku Seijin chuckled. It was good that these are the people that want the Dragon Balls. Any information on where to find the others? All the Dragon Balls are supervised by a Patriarch. You will need to convince each one of them. The last Dragon Ball for you to find is the ball of 1 star. That ball is saved by the Great Patriarch. If he gives you his blessing, he will personally summon the Great Purunga. Goku smiled at Toph and Azula and Toph also smiled. "It's getting late. Do you have a place to stay? Maybe your ship?" We don't actually." Goku spoke over Azula and the Patriarch chuckled. "You can stay with us. Please use the room on the other side." Toph and Goku walked where Azula was. They were talking with the young Nameku Seijins. And while Azula was only looking at them, some kids went with her. Curious about the weird-looking person. Nameku Seijin doesn't have sexuality, so they have never seen a female. When they were together they finally started planning their next move, but before they could continue, Toph asked for a moment and punched Goku in the arm. "Ouch, why was that?" "That was for what happened in the ships." Toph hit Goku in the arm again. "And that for what you just said inside the house." "1 wish. What about Sokka?" "Oh. Sorry, forgot about him. I've never felt his energy, so, you know." Goku started scratching the back of his head while smiling. Azula sighed after the small scene they were making in front of her. This kind of situation happened in front of her since Toph became close to Goku. She has never paid attention to him, but in the last few months when they started training more frequently due to the arrival of the Saiyans, many people had suggested that they would make a good match. Azula was not against the idea of Toph being Goku's wife. She would prefer a firebender for his brother, but she is strong enough and was educated for the position of someone in high society. Suddenly the three felt the energy of 2 people coming in their direction. Without knowing if they were more Nameku Seijins, Azula ordered them to not get alarmed and to wait for the direction of the leader of this village. In the sky, 2 men show up. One looked like a human, but with blue skin, bright yellow hair and a mustache. The other looked like a tiger shark, but in a humanoid form, with purple skin. Both of them were wearing similar armors to the one that the Saiyans were using. The two men landed and one of them started to scream. You have 10 seconds to give us the Dragon Ball, because if you don't. A beam was shooted from a machine that the purple man was wearing in his hand. The beam was shot against the chest of an old Nameku Saiyan. The men smirked and started to count. Azula and Toph remain in their place. Azula was trying to find a way to escape with the Dragon Ball in the middle of the chaos. Toph was trying to check how they could produce the energy blast. She felt that the energy was not created by the man but still was shooting from him. Goku, on the other hand, could not resist anymore. When the man said 9, he pointed his weapon to another Nameku Saiyan, but Goku put himself in front and deflected the beam. I will not allow you to hurt anyone else. Goku screamed and ran after them. He punched the blue-skinned man in the stomach and the purple-skinned man was destroyed with an energy beam of Goku. The Nameku Saiyans were afraid of what happened and afraid of Goku. Were they with you? One of the villagers said, but the Patriarch appeared and calmed them down. Thank you for saving us from those men. Do you know who they are? No, but they are wearing the same armor as the people that attacked our planet. I see. Azula walked to where the blue-skinned corpse was, she took the machine in his ear and destroyed it. That thing is what they use to find people. The Patriarch was thinking over the situation. We will need to let the great Patriarch know about this. I will go. The young villager said, and then he started to fly in one direction. The rest of us will be leaving this place. I know that it may sound pointless if they can find us with that thing, but I guess they will look for places where there are more people. The Patriarch turned to Goku. I was thinking of going with all of you to convince the other Patriarchs, but I cannot leave my people in this terrible situation. I know that you did not bring them here, but there is only one reason for people to come to our planet. And that is the Dragon Balls. The Patriarch sighed and then looked at Azula. You look like their leader. Please take the Dragon Ball and talk with the other Patriarchs. They should help you, tell them what you told me. Thank you for your trust. After that, Toph went inside the house and took the Dragon Ball. The Patriarch told them the direction of the closest village and the three of them left the village. Vegeta's new power. Vegeta arrived at the Namekusei. He hurried to travel after he was healed. But the scouter in his ear, he could hear the orders of him to go back. He was sick of following Frieza orders. He also heard about the plan of Frieza about finding the Dragon Balls, the mystical object of the Nameku Saiyan that can grant you wishes. He knew that with his current power and with a little cunning, he should be able to gather the Dragon Balls and ask for a wish for himself, immortality. Vegeta was not driven by vengeance, but pride. The Prince of Saiyans, the most powerful warrior race, has been ordered around and it can't happen anymore. Vegeta wants his freedom, he doesn't know what he will do after he gets it, but he will work it out once he gets it. Standing outside his ship, he waited. He knew Frieza will send someone to him and that they will underestimate him. He will use this to make a statement to make it clear that he should have never messed with the Saiyans. After waiting for some minutes, Vegeta heard a communication with the scouter. I am acting on strict orders from Lord Frieza. I've been ordered to kill you. Do you hear that, Vegeta? Now I'm free to kill you. Vegeta smirked when he heard the voice. Kaiui is one of Frieza's soldiers that has been on Vegeta's killing radar for a long time. If it wasn't for Frieza's army, Vegeta would have killed him long ago. Don't make me laugh, Kaiui. Do you really believe that you stand a chance? Are you blind? Look at the numbers of your scouter. I am stronger than you. Vegeta's smirk grew wider. The taunt was effective and his enemy flew faster to his location. It did pass only a few minutes and Kaiui arrived. Kaiui, who is purple and with holes in the top side of his head, stood in front of Vegeta with a smirk on his face. Haha. It seems that it is time to settle the score. Though, with your power level, it seems you won't be putting up too much of a fight. Allow me to open your eyes. I'll show you an interesting trick I learned in my last battle. What? How to escape barely alive. The ability to control my power level at will. The Prince of the Saiyans grimaced darkly and concentrated all his power. The planet started to shake and Kaiui also did, but not because of the plane. The purple man looked at the scouter in disbelief. The fast increase of power that went beyond 22,000 made the scouter explode. Vegeta calmed and controlled his power. The planet stopped shaking, but the Saiyan opponent was still shaking in fear. Suddenly the purple guy started to talk. Why wait a minute, Vegeta, I just had a great idea, let's work together, I can lend you a hand. I never liked Lord Frieza. Think about it. If we team up we could defeat Saibamen and Dodoria. Vegeta was pissed off. Cowardliness is something that Vegeta despised the most. Look at you, spewing such blatant lies. You really are a pathetic bastard. It's not a lie. You have to believe me, Vegeta, Lord Frieza. Vegeta turned to see to his back when Kaiui called for Frieza. At that moment, the purple man started to shoot multiple energy blasts at Vegeta. A big explosion happened and a cloud of dust was where Vegeta was. The purple man was laughing, but when the cloud lifted he didn't see Vegeta there. Then from behind him, a voice spoke. Even for you, that was a pretty pathetic attempt. When did you? Iui started to shake again and decided to escape, but he was punched in the stomach by Vegeta. The hit sent the purple man flying up. Vegeta used a simple energy attack with two of his fingers, and Kaiui's body exploded. The Saiyan prince smirked again, and then he thought about his next opponents. He knew that he could defeat Saibamen and Dodoria, and any of them would be sent to deal with him. Realizing that Frieza could track him with the scouter, he destroyed the machine. His first mission will be to find at least one Dragon Ball, and with that in mind, he left. Azula, Goku and Toph were resting inside a cave. They were too tired. Their first idea was to rotate the day when one will keep all-night shift, but they realized a little too late that the planet had two suns. Azula grinned at the prospect of her firebending being more powerful there. Inside the cave, Azula and Goku were sleeping. Toph, in her side, tried a little of her earthbending without using much energy. While training, she felt multiple people flying. They were not close, but the strength of the power of some of them was too big. Toph was going to go, she was thinking of making a wall of earth in the cave entrance, but Azula was already up. I also felt that energy. Do not dare to go there, they are way too powerful. But what if they already have a Dragon Ball? We need to at least investigate. Azula frowned for a moment and looked at Goku. You stay here with Goku. I'll go. But even if you go, there won't be any different. This is just to investigate. Then both of them were silent as they felt the energy stopping its travel. The energy stopped in the village to which they were to go. Azula flew in the direction. Toph stayed behind and clenched her fists. Frieza looked at Saibamen after the scouter exploded. Dodoria asked. What happened, Saibamen? It must be a malfunction. The scouter I had set Vegeta's power around 22,000. It must be because your scouter was an older model. Let me check with mine. Dodoria was surprised with the reading of his scouter. What's your reading? This can't be. Maybe a general malfunction. My scouter says that he is rising above 24,000. Are you saying that his power surpassed ours? There is no way. Frieza smirked when he heard them. Now. Vegeta has been on the front line for quite a while. He must have learned something in his last mission. If you fight him combined, there shouldn't be any problem. Frieza started to remember something. Speaking of his last mission. What happened to the soldiers we sent for those intruders? Apologize Lord Frieza, but they never came back. And their scouters does not give any signals. It's okay. They are replaceable. Now, tell me, what was their power level? Last we checked, only one showed up and was with a power of 10,000. I see. Dodoria, I am afraid to tell you that you will be taken care of them. In the end, it was Zaboon who was right. Oh of course, Lord Frieza. Right away. Dodoria passed the two Dragon Balls that were in his arms to another soldier. He checked his scouter and found that one energy of 500 was coming in their direction. It was also in his way where the last reading was, so he decided to go there. Azula was desperate and afraid of what was going to happen. She tried to use the less amount of energy possible to fly. If not, they would escape. It was risky, but she could not do anything else. Unfortunately for Azula, one of the three strongest energies started to go in her direction. She decided to land and try to hide her energy. It passed a few seconds when a pink humanoid showed up in the sky. It looked like searching for something. She got afraid when it seemed like that person was going to blast energy in her direction. Azula was preparing herself for the imminent battle, but suddenly from the sea, a giant water monster showed up. She decided to hide again, and the pink guy left the place. Maybe he thought that the energy was from the sea monster, thought Azula. The rest of the way she went running, trying to hide her energy completely. Dodoria was disappointed that the reading was from a sea creature. Still, he had a job to do. He continued flying until a blast of energy hit him in the back and sent him to the ground. The scouter rebounded from of him. When Dodoria was recovering and going to grab the scouter, a person landed in front and trampled the scouter until it was destroyed. Dodoria looked over to see the response, and he saw Vegeta looking at him with a smirk. Vegeta, do you think that you can just blindside me like that and get away with it? You are all alone. There is no Frieza or Saibamen to help you. Getting rid of you will be easy. Dodoria, stand up, you have nerve to say that. But no matter, let's make a where is your scouter? That thing. I get rid of it. I have no use for that garbage. In my last mission, I learned how to feel the energy of my opponents. I see. So you were working with the people of that planet. Oh, so they also came. They are now on my list of getting rid of course, it will be after I deal with you. Don't underestimate me. Dodoria got angry and launched a series of energy blasts. But Vegeta was faster and he reappeared behind him. Before the pink man could react, the Saiyan prince grabbed him from the wrist and started to pull. Screaming in agony, Dodoria could hear Vegeta saying that the Saiyan will always increase their power after healing from a great battle. Dodoria, pleading for his life, said something that caught Vegeta's attention. It's about your home planet. Planet Vegeta. What? Vegeta let his grip and Dodoria started to distance himself from Vegeta. What guarantee I have that you won't kill me as soon as I told you? Start speaking, or I'll kill you now. Midoriya smirked. You see, your home planet wasn't wiped out by a giant meteor like Lord Frieza told you. What did you say? Lord Frieza was getting aware that many Saiyan was becoming stronger. Midoriya started to levitate to escape. Lord Frieza knew that the Saiyans wouldn't remain obedient and loyal for much longer. So, Lord Frieza himself destroyed planet Vegeta and all the Saiyans on it. Vegeta thought of everything. Sorry to shock you. This is your last chance to return to Lord Frieza's side. You are confused. I don't give a damn about the planet, friends or my parents. I am just disgusted to myself for not knowing this before. Surprised by the reaction of Vegeta, Midoriya flew as fast as he could. Vegeta looked at him and blasted an energy beam that reached Midoriya almost right away and destroyed him. Azula came to the village, only to see the Nameku Saiyans being slaughtered by the group wearing similar armor as the Saiyans. When she arrived, she saw the corpses of some old Nameku Saiyans and some young ones arriving. Unfortunately, this new group of Nameku Saiyans were no match for the green-haired guy. Suddenly, an old Nameku Saiyan shot his attack to the ear machines of his opponent. Azula could do nothing but smirk at it. Suddenly she realized that the invaders had already 4 Dragon Balls. A small person ordered something to the green-haired and after that, he put the balls on the floor. He disappeared and Reaper in front of the young Nameku Saiyans that arrived. With just one attack he killed them. Resigned and shaking, the old Nameku Saiyan entered one of the houses and gave them the Dragon Ball. Azula decided that she had seen enough and left the place. Knowing that they did not have their machines to find her, she flew as fast as she could. In the middle of her way, she felt an incredible energy. She decided to take cover. She wanted to be wrong, but she knew that was impossible. She couldn't be wrong. The energy she felt was Vegeta's. The plan was falling in front of her, piece by piece. Their opponents were too powerful. She felt helpless in her current situation. A year ago, she was way too prideful and considered herself the strongest person. Even when Goku's power was greater than hers, she could outsmart him and win. But everything changed since the Saiyans appeared. A misstep could mean death. She needed to go back and find another way to approach this. Maybe wait until this monster made his wish. But she was sure that they will come back to her planet sooner or later. Maybe take the Dragon Ball with them, but that will put a price on them. She was on her knees looking at her reflection in the water. She saw her expression, an expression she saw in her opponents but never on her. She saw fear. Azula got angered. She is not weak, she is not like her older brother Zuko, she won't flee from her problems, she is not like her mother Ursa. I am Azula, I am the princess of the Fire Nation. I fear no one, people fear me. With her mind more at ease, she decided to continue her journey back to the cave where Toph and Goku was. At Azula's arrival, Toph removed the earth wall. She was hoping that Azula may arrive with good news, but when she saw Azula's expression, she realized that the news were not good. They have 5 Dragon Balls. And their power is beyond any of us. Goku was already up and sitting in a chair made of earth by Toph. Then he remembered something important. What if we go directly with the Great Patriarch? What? Remember what the elder of the village said? He said that the Great Patriarch can summon Purunga. You mean that the balls alone are not enough? I doubt that any Nameku Saiyans have told that to any of them. We don't lose anything by going there. Toph was in better spirits as she slept for a while. But with this new arrangement, a question was raised to her head. Does anyone know where the Great Patriarch is? He should be the strongest energy outside Vegeta and his friends. Goku said, scratching his head. I doubt it. The leaders of each village seem to be the elder of all of them, so the Great Patriarch won't be a fighter. Maybe, but he is the most important figure on this planet. So, I guess they will put somebody strong to protect him. Without any other way to find them, the 3 departed to find the strongest energy that belonged to a Nameku Saiyan. Need to rest. Frieza was in the same village where they killed all the habitants. In front of Frieza were Saibamen and Apuru, a soldier in the Frieza army. Midoriya hasn't returned. Could he still be searching for Vegeta's allies? Forget about him. If he can't find those fools, then let him be. Go and search for the remaining Dragon Balls. Apuru made a comment to Frieza, which was accepted by Frieza. Yes sir. If we search for the remaining villages, we should find them. Very well. I will take the 5 Dragon Balls we already have. Yes sir. I am counting on you too. Frieza made the Dragon Ball levitate and he flew away with the Dragon Balls were behind him. After a while, Azula, Toph and Goku felt the presence of 2 people. The 3 were relieved that it did not feel like the energy of Vegeta or his allies. Before they could feel the presence of the Great Patriarch, they were wandering around and on their way, they found a place to let Azula rest for a while before continuing. When they found the place, they saw a building that looked like a giant white bug. It was over a lonely and high structure of the rock. If they were back on their planet, they will think that this Great Patriarch was an airbender, only for the place he decided to put his house. When Azula and the others landed in front of what looked to be the entrance, an Nameku Saiyan emerged from the building. He looked taller than the average and his energy was higher. Greetings, visitors. The great Patriarch is waiting for you. He already has a gist of what is happening. Please come in. Azula, Goku and Toph flew the Nameku Saiyan inside the building. He floats to the second floor and they follow him. To their surprise, in the room was a Nameku Saiyan that looked old and bigger than any other person. Great Patriarch, I've brought the visitors. Azula and Goku bowed, making the Fire Nation sign with their hands. Toph was still amazed by the size of the Great Patriarch and was looking with awe. Azula elbowed her without losing her posture. Toph reacted and bowed and made the Earth Kingdom gesture with her fist. The Patriarch chuckled a little and then he caught. Welcome travelers. First, let me give you my gratitude for saving the people of the village under Snai. Thank you very much. It was nothing. They helped us, so it was natural to help them back. Many of my children have been killed by these terrifying invaders, they appear to be seeking the Dragon Balls. It pains me to think that the Orbs of Hope would bring this pain. Great Patriarch. We request your Dragon Ball. We are planning to leave with them, so the wish of the invaders that are attacking won't come true. I see. You speak the truth, your heart is still conflicted, but you are brave enough to choose your own path. Patriarch took the Dragon Ball. I will entrust you the Dragon Ball of 1 star. But I am afraid that your wish won't come true. Toph got surprised and asked. Yo, you know about it? I can get information about what is happening. And why our wish won't come true. Unfortunately, the time I have left in this world is only a few days. And once I die, the Dragon Balls will cease to exist. Toph looked disappointed and with tears in her eyes, she stood tall and spoke. We are going to protect these Dragon Balls. So that their wishes do not come true. The Great Patriarch smiled at them. Thank you for your assistance. I am too old to protect it and Nail here won't be able to defend me. The three of them felt a little tense. Azula just thought again that their plan was getting destroyed little by little. By the way, the three of you possess exceptional powers. It's a shame that so much it is lying dormant. Please let me assist you at least in this way. That can help you in your future battles. Azula, Goku and Toph looked at each other. They did not understand completely what he was saying. Toph is the one that walked to the front. The Great Patriarch put her hand in her head. Toph was not sure what was going to happen. When he said that she had a dormant power she did not believe it. She has trained all this time and until now she has been proud of her results. She was no match to this invader but she understood her limitations. Or so she thought. Suddenly a burst of energy grew in front of her. For a while, she was dizzy from the amount of energy she had. She was able to feel the energy around and her earthbending let her feel the entire factions of everyone. It was like she was able to see with great detail. She felt lighter, faster, and stronger. Azula and Goku were surprised by the sudden energy boost of Toph. All this power. It's mine. The Great Patriarch smiled at her. Please, allow me to help you too. Azula was next, and once her potential was unlocked she felt a worm inside. With that feeling, she regained her confidence. Goku was next, and with a big smile, Goku energy was unlocked. After unlocking Goku's energy, the Great Patriarch looked tired. The Nameku Saiyan that let the mentor go closer to the Patriarch to check for his health. After coughing the old Nameku Saiyan said, Young Goku. I was able to unlock only a small part of your energy. Unfortunately, my health won't allow me to unlock it completely. Goku nodded and thanked him. Vegeta felt the sudden powers. He knew that they should be Kakaroto and his companions. He flew to his directions without any kind of prevention. In his mind was only his desire for revenge. But in the middle of his flight, he was stopped by Saibamen. Vegeta, I didn't intend to find you, but Lord Frieza will be happy after I kill you. You killing me? Don't make me laugh. I already killed Dodoria. I didn't even break a sweat. Do you expect me to believe that? I don't care if you do. He is already dead. Why do you continue to rebel against Lord Frieza? Simple. My pride as a Saiyan do not allow me. And now that I've found a way to break free and acquire eternal life in the process. I see. You are after the Dragon Balls. Saibamen snorted at the idea. And you really think that is everything you need to defeat Lord Frieza? His powers are beyond what you or I could dream. Frieza was in the same village where they killed all the habitants. In front of Frieza were Saibamen and Apuru, a soldier in the Frieza army. Dodoria hasn't returned. Could he still be searching for Vegeta's allies? Forget about him. If he can't find those fools, then let him be. Go and search for the remaining Dragon Balls. Apuru made a comment to Frieza, which was accepted by Frieza. Yes sir. If we search for the remaining villages, we should find them. Very well. I will take the 5 Dragon Balls we already have. Yes sir. I am counting on you too. Frieza made the Dragon Ball levitate and he flew away with the Dragon Balls were behind him. After a while, Azula, Toph and Goku felt the presence of 2 people. The 3 were relieved that it did not feel like the energy of Vegeta or his allies. Before they could feel the presence of the great patriarch, they were wandering around and on their way, they found a place to let Azula rest for a while before continuing. When they found the place, they saw a building that looked like a giant white bug. It was over a lonely and high structure of the rock. If they were back on their planet, they will think that this great patriarch was an airbender, only for the place he decided to put his house. When Azula and the others landed in front of what looked to be the entrance, an Saiyan emerged from the building. He looked taller than the average, and his energy was higher. Greetings, visitors. The great patriarch is waiting for you. He already has a gist of what is happening. Please come in. Azula, Goku and Toph flew the Saiyan inside the building. He floats to the second floor, and they follow him. To their surprise, in the room was a Saiyan that looked old and bigger than any other person. Great patriarch, I've brought the visitors. Azula and Goku bowed, making the Fire Nation sign with their hands. Toph was still amazed by the size of the great patriarch and was looking with awe. Azula elbowed her without losing her posture. Toph reacted and bowed and made the Earth Kingdom gesture with her fist. The patriarch chuckled a little, and then he called. Welcome travelers. First, let me give you my gratitude for saving the people of the village under Snai. Thank you very much. It was nothing. They helped us, so it was natural to help them back. Many of my children have been killed by these terrifying invaders, they appear to be seeking the Dragon Balls. It pains me to think that the Orbs of Hope would bring this pain. Great Patriarch. We request your Dragon Ball. We are planning to leave with them, so the wish of the invaders that are attacking won't come true. I see. You speak the truth, your heart is still conflicted, but you are brave enough to choose your own path. Patriarch took the Dragon Ball. I will entrust you the Dragon Ball of 1 star. But I am afraid that your wish won't come true. Toph got surprised and asked. Oh, you know about it? I can get information about what is happening. And why our wish won't come true. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.